Hey, we're on. Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Episode number 26 of Heavy Metallurgy with our friend King Fowley has returned, and Alan
Hello.
has
Hi.
returned.
Good evening.
Hello.
The return of King Fowley. It's great to do this again, guys. It was so fun last week. It really was. And it's like we stopped. We were frozen in time for a week. And then somebody took a blowtorch to Alan, then to Marty, then to me. And here we are, like thawed out.
I'm like that pig on Traces of Death. With the
Yeah, that's it.
Did you smell the bacon?
Yeah, that's it. Alan's not completely thawed out yet, but he's working on it with that beer.
The Red Bulls. I'm getting there.
Oh, you're getting there. He hasn't got to the thaw part of the show yet.
Well, we got some unfinished business to do. We started off a week ago with probably people's most familiar Black Sabbath experiences. Would you guys agree? They're probably the Ozzy era is a very popular era for obvious reasons.
Oh yeah.
But Sabbath did the unthinkable. It's usually not a good thing when a band changes its singer. That usually it changes the character of the band, which, as we're going to get through here, the character of Sabbath has changed throughout the singer changes, I think. But Iommi held it together quite nicely. I think he expanded on the sound, kind of kept Sabbath in a bubble. Not a lot of outside influence, I don't think, came in, where bands like Kiss were really jumping on hard to like the grunge era with Carnival of Souls, stuff like that. Other bands,
Carnival of shit. Yeah.
I actually kind of like the album, but I don't know what it is.
I still love you though, even though I never should have fooled you out, man.
It's the Gene songs. His voice seemed well suited.
We got $800 million and every bitch in the world hate.
But Sabbath, for a lot of to be kind of hailed for kind of keeping to their own. And although we will talk about that as we move on with, I've got a few.
I agree though. Definitely. I mean, Tony Iommi, he man, that guy, you talk about some stuff, we'll get to it, but man, the 80s, that man, he wrote a lot hard ass roller coaster, man.
Yep.
He did. And what was it? Four singers. No, Ozzy, Dio,
Ian,
Gillian. Yep. And
Ray, if you want. Yeah. Ray
Gillen too.
Moment in time. Yep.
Was he on? He didn't sing on an album, did he? Was he just a touring guy?
Yes and no. I guess
original Eternal Idol, the original Eternal Idol recordings, and then he was out before it went to record, and Tony Martin replaced him and did most of his melodies. That's what brought Tony Martin into the band.
Right on.
Yep. So yeah, it's going to be interesting. We got to keep up with some lineup changes this week, which last week that wasn't a thing at all. It was a very tight unit the entire time, and yeah, tonight it's practically a different lineup on every single album that we'll talk about here in a little while.
And there's a lot of Sabbath completing the circle too. I mean, they, for good or bad, reformed with Dio. They reformed with Ozzy. We'll get into those albums as well. But it's kind of cool to see the circle complete, whether you liked it or not. I guess it's good to end on where you begin.
I think it's something everybody wanted to see happen, even if it maybe didn't live up to everyone's expectations. It was still nice that it happened.
There was a couple decades for everybody that never got to see Dio with Sabbath for them to get another shot, and then another shot. Then it was a couple decades for people that never saw Ozzy with Sabbath to get another shot, and then another shot. So it was almost like these long. It wasn't like one time they came back for a month. I mean, those things with Ozzy went on and on and on, and those things with Dio were repeatedly too. So. And even Tony Martin, to a degree, even though he didn't really have any clout at all, it was still. Well, we'll talk about it when we get there.
Yeah. But there's about 30-some people on there, and I do want to open it up in the chat. Last week, we did a little mini interview with King on the new stuff that's coming. Thrash Times at Ridgemont High and Hell's Headbangers on October 31st. Everybody check it out. It's a great covers album. But we had a little bit of a delay we were dealing with, and it'd be nice to open up to King some questions from the peanut gallery. So if anybody wants to post some questions, that would be the time to do it. I think we'll do that before we start getting into the album by album breakdown. So
Yeah, there were issues last week where King couldn't really see, things people were posting, and we know folks had questions. He definitely was not ignoring anybody. Just tech issues weren't letting them pop up for him. So, yeah, absolutely, it's a good way to start. Throw questions. I'm pretty sure King will not be bashful about answering them.
No,
not at all.
And he will not answer the question of where babies come from.
It'll be a visual presentation.
King, what's Vietnam?
There knows to be that kind of show. I mean, I would address differently. All right, here we go. Here's the first one from Synthetic Life. Is Thrash Times going to be released on vinyl?
At this point, I don't think so, just because of the moment in time. First off, if it was to come out on vinyl, it would still probably take 15 months because of the backup of vinyl
it's terrible.
at the factories and stuff everywhere.
Yep.
And I think eventually it will. I don't know if it'll end up being a subsidiary of something they do or if it'll be something we do on our own. I'd like to. I'd also like to do all the cover stuff we've done, the Rotten to the Core 1 and 2, the hardcore things we've done as well. I don't know. It costs a lot of money to put the vinyl together and all that kind of stuff. And I don't know. I'm sure they wouldn't have a problem just breaking even to have it out there. Talking about Hell's Headbangers, I'm gonna do everything in my power to do that, and if so, hopefully we can have a bonus track or something to make it a little bit unique for it and everything like that. So when it comes out here on Halloween, it'll just be on CD, and then hopefully moving forward, look for it on vinyl. 2024, even if we go to press this week, look for it in 18 months from now.
Not only are the production times terrible, they're raising the prices of production, which it's like they're going to try to kill their little vinyl resurgence.
Oh yeah,
push everybody back to
CD. Greed kills everything.
Yeah, it's like all of a sudden, oh, you like this thing again? Well, let's start charging triple for it out of nowhere. It's like, that's not a good idea if you want it to last more than 15 minutes.
Exactly, keep it around.
Mm-hmm.
Well, here's a comment actually from Aaron the Metal Theologian that we were just talking about offline. Everyone notice how King's band is called Deceased and not The Deceased? That's because it's a metal band.
Well, me and Marty were talking about this before we went on the air about this. There was a band called the Deceased. They were a punk rock band. They were similar to the Misfits, early 80s, put out a 7-inch. I bought the thing somewhere down the line just because, the Deceased thing to it. But yeah, we're deceased, ... Don't forget the ... People always ask, what is the ... It means deceased and then some, meaning dead, but something else is going on. If we were truly dead, it would be ... deceased to end it. So it's basically like, and then some, that's what the ... always means. And some people to this day don't put the ... on flyers and stuff. Like they're always like, oh, I thought that was just something that got stuck on one of your copies somewhere. And it looked like it was just like, like distorted ink kind of shit on there. But no, it's part of the logo. But yeah, we are deceased, and we look it.
I always thought it was a cool part of the logo because it was kind of like the dead but maybe being reanimated, resurrected, tied into the zombie and horror kind of thing. That there's
something
more
else is going on there, kind of stuff.
Yeah, it opens the door for that supernatural experience to happen after you're deceased. So yeah, I just thought it was a cool touch that y'all had.
Hey, folks, questions for King. Let's get him out here.
That's it. Why is he on here?
Ordered that new Worm vinyl from $20 Spin, not shipping until February. Yeah, I mean everything's delayed, man. Yeah,
there's a lot of that. I mean, vinyl's just crazy right now. It really just is.
Yeah. And it's just going to push, the increase in production cost is just going to increase. It's going to get passed down to the consumer, and it's going to send people back to wanting CDs. And, I still love CDs. I buy them all the time. But as having my own label, CDs have always done really shitty for me. I don't know what it is. It's just because the stuff I put out, probably, it's more geared towards the metal. My clientele is definitely more vinyl, but people are still doing it again. But we can change if we're going to have to if the vinyl keeps going this way.
Yeah. I've always, just getting the music out there. I've never had a problem with CDs or anything. I mean, you can take them around. Nowadays, you can't even have a CD player in your car. Got to be outdated to get one of those and stuff. But, it's just music on anything. I mean, we grew up with cassettes and stuffed them in our pockets and went out the door. That had its moment in time, too. And you could burn them and lose them. You were okay with it. I did know a girl that had when she was growing up, she had a record player in her car.
That was a thing for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she had a record. She actually had a vinyl record player in her car. Growing up, I think she grew up in Iran of all places, and they had this in her car. And I was just thinking, man, that's so weird. But then I saw some things online about this, go back 15, 20 years now with looking this up. But I was like, yeah, these things were out there. I just don't know how that would work. I just don't know how it would work.
Yeah, I've seen it once, and I don't think it ever worked very well. But yeah, it was a
skip and a jump kind of stuff. Like I like that. Yeah. Well, I don't. What's this song? It's just jumping around the needle. Must have been some crazy stuff, but yeah, as long as it's out there of some sort, man, I just want to be able to hear the music.
Yep.
Here we go. Carl Koger's got a question. Will we ever see a return of Doomstone?
People ask all the time. I've always thought that would be fun because the whole purpose of Doomstone was when we first started, it was just to take a pop crack at the black metal of the time, how they were so serious and everything. We were just making fun of it all, but still trying to write good music. We just were like, these people are so fucking devised back in the day. And how it came about was we were just at practice, deceased practices, and me and Les would get there early. Some of our friends would come out there, so we just get on the gear and start fucking around. I was like, all right, I'll play drums, Les, your bass. And we had a guy, Dennis, it was his house. He went on, he's played in Revelation and some other bands, and he played guitar. And this guy, Jeff, was a local friend. He just started singing. So I was like, let's call it Doomstone. And I'm keeper of I'm cross turner, upside downer, and you're keeper of the Brazilian death metal albums. Just these asinine names. And Jeff was like, I just want to be Vomit, man. I don't want one of those long names. I'm just Vomit. So we did this demo, and it locally people were freaking out. They're like, you got to play live. So I was like, how are we going to play live? We got to act like Kiss. We got to put on shit and upside down cross makeup and all this shit and just be idiots and drink ketchup and spit blood and ketchup blood. And we went and played, and people fucking loved it. It was so weird. And then out of the blue, this guy from Italy got in touch and said, hey, man, you want to do a fucking record? So we're like, you guys want to do a fucking record? Let's write some more of this shit. And I luckily got to write a lot of that stuff on guitar. A lot of those riffs were mine, like Rosemary's Baby and stuff from the first one. And me and Dennis would just throw that stuff together. So then when that was done, we played a few more years. Jeff went on, he started doing some other things, the singer. And so someone asked us to do another record. And I said, well, the guy doesn't sing anymore. And I was like, but that's because he was killed. He was killed by this guy here. So we made Priest Killer. And this guy supposedly killed Vomit, so we could do a second record, which was Satanovoid, which really was Satanovoid. And we wrote that thing in a weekend for fun, put that out. That did pretty fucking good, but we never played with that thing. So people to this day don't even know who played on that record. And then we got asked to do more stuff, and I just kept saying, let's just make it weirder. Like I was like, let's do a third record that sucks, where we'd like go techno, like we just suck, like one of those black metal bands that suddenly just abandoned everything they've ever done. We were going to do that, and I was like, I can't even do that jokingly. We had this 7-inch we were working on called Pigs. It was just these two pigs fucking in a church graveyard, and we got the artwork done, but we never got the songs to go with it. And I've thought for years and years, because now that Jeff's back around and we're all older, it would be pretty neat to just get together and maybe just play a big crazy gig, blow up nuns on stage or something like that. Just have fun with it. But, maybe one day there'll be a third honest album. And just to close that out, there was actually a greatest hits of Doomstone that came out called Without Prayer, which was basically just the greatest hits of the first two records, which was in play with those Combat records. Remember the best of Dark Angel, the best of Death, the best of Voivod. It was like, why are these the greatest hits albums here, But we did that for fun too. It really, when I'm talking about it here jokingly, it's hilarious. It's shit we did with that band, man.
Here's another one. King, what's your favorite Maiden album since Bruce came back? From Michael Hudson.
Book of Souls. Book of Souls is absolutely my favorite. I've played that record over 100 times. I love that one. That's absolutely my favorite one. I get it. A lot of people don't get it. I get it. I really love it. I saw that tour, I think 4 times. I like them all for different reasons. I like the new one. I mean, it's got some things that I would do differently, of course, but it's still Maiden. Truthfully, my least favorite of the ones coming back, which mostly everybody says is their favorite, is Brave New World. And I'll tell you why. Some of those tunes, Silent Planet being one of them, just a little bit not so much full on Maiden to me. A little bit like they were like trying to please Adrian and Bruce a little bit when they first came back. A little, I don't want to say alternative because that's not the word, but just a little out of the box. I'm seeing a little bit out of the box on the new record too with some of the tracks, but positively for me, definitely Book of Souls.
For me, that album, I really liked it when I got it. I listened to the shit out of it for probably a week, and then I haven't really touched it since. It's weird. And
you weren't alone on that. A lot of people were that way, but I went on and on and on and on and on with that record.
Right on.
Yep.
And the new one, I got to applaud them. They still sound like Iron Maiden, which is great, but man, it didn't need to be 85 minutes, and they needed more variation. There just needed to be some different dynamics in the songs. And that's a little that would have went a long way, I think.
I disagree with most people's assumptions of that record by the music. I don't think it's like every other record they've done since Bruce came back. Yeah, there's a lot of long songs and stuff, but there's some different ideas in there. And I'll tell you one thing, that's a very fucking dark record. It's so anti-commercial, if anything. It's a very dark record. I mean, I know people want to hear shorter tunes and something with some more speed to it. I also think Nico's age is starting to affect that stuff. He's got to go out there and play this stuff. I mean, to go out there and just come out with Aces High and things like the last tour and things like that is great. You can tell. I mean, the dude's basically 70 years old. Yeah. He's got to do that night tonight. And to put it down on record, I think they're just getting into this thing. And I think Steve Harris is happy with that. And people were saying, oh, they never were like this when I was growing up. It's like, yeah, they were. They weren't much like this as they are now, but there was always Strange World and Prodigal Son and things like that. There was definitely a 70s influence. It's just now it's become the main focus of the band, I think, especially with Harris and stuff. And I know people are tired of the bass solo intros and the extended choruses, which he didn't do a lot on this last record. But I applaud them for what they're doing. I mean, it's not my favorite album they've ever done. I really do like the record, but Book of Souls, I think it was a little bit of everything. It was some up-tempo stuff. I thought Speed of Light was like a lost New Wave of British Heavy Metal 7-inch from fucking 81. I thought it was that cool of a tune.
Yeah,
Richard,
you're right about the tone on the new album. It does have a darker vibe overall. It reminds me a little bit of X Factor in that regard.
Absolutely. I hear that too. And what's weird is all this album was written and finished long before COVID happened, before the world got as creepy as it got last year. It was already done. I mean, I was reading some weird things about that record, them saying that they put it under lock and key where nobody in the band could even listen to it for months at a time. Like even Steve Harris wasn't even allowed to have a copy of it. They made some kind of, agreement. It was weird as shit. I hope they get to get out and play for it soon. I'd love to hear the songs live. I think some of those songs will come off a little bit better live, because one thing I was talking the other night to a guy about, I think one thing about the record is they said most of that stuff was written in like 2 weeks and then they went and recorded it. I think it was so fresh, and especially being a drummer myself, it has what I call Queensryche the Warning kind of charm to it, where you could tell the drums were so new that he hadn't really figured out all the changes in the riffing on Queensryche. And I feel that way about Iron Maiden, as if there was almost like they pieced pieces together and kind of made it like it is, which kind of made it a little quote unquote stiff record as far as rhythmically. And I think once they get out and play it and figure the songs they're going to do on tour, they'll practice it a bunch more and stuff. It'll be way more wet, so to speak, in their minds.
Yeah, and Bruce also said the writing process, they didn't throw any riffs away, which...
we always need to throw some riffs away, that's for sure.
Yeah.
But speaking of Bruce, I am proud that they did not finagle his voice to, with studio tricks. I like the aging in his voice. I like the honesty. Yeah. It reminds you of what they're doing with Deep Purple with Ian Gillan's, the same way. Like you can hear the age, you can hear the years of playing and singing and stuff on the records. It wasn't hidden behind things. And I definitely respect that.
Yep.
On the similar topic, Richard Wolf is asking if you're a fan of the Blaze era.
Absolutely. I'll put it this way. The X Factor is one of my favorite Maiden. It's one of my favorite Maiden records. I saw that tour. I was front row at Hammerjacks, which is a bar that holds maybe 1,500 people in Baltimore. Left as a piece of the artwork of Somewhere in Time, one of their favorite bars. It's up in Baltimore, was in Baltimore, places to go hang out and drink while on tour. I saw them when Blaze was hot. He was still, not deep into the tour, had his voice. He kicked ass on the tunes. I mean, he sang them a little different than Bruce, obviously, but he was very good. Later on in the tour, I've got bootlegs and things like that on CDs and DVDs where he's flat and he's dead. I mean, he definitely was not the guy to go do 100 Maiden shows in a year.
He didn't have the staying power. He didn't sing properly. Yeah.
I see why they didn't keep him around. Virtual X1, not so much. Probably that and Brave New World back to back is for me the weakest time in Maiden's history. For me, I like a few songs on that one. That one just, I've never been a fan of Angel and the Gambler, man. That song just sounds like the Who, and I don't have a problem with the Who, but I don't want to hear fucking Iron Maiden being the Who.
Too much repetition in the chorus is
it's quirky. It's just not, it's not for me. You know, there's some decent stuff on there. The production on both of those is, I mean, they really sold Blaze short. People are like, oh, he can't sing at all. Blaze can sing. I think Blaze is personally vocal wise remind me somewhere of a cross between Messiah Marcolin and 8D Martini from Oz, but I think he was underproduced vocally on both those records he was on. And I think especially with X Factor, I mean, it's like, if you go back and you listen to soloed out Bruce Dickinson tracks, say if you go on YouTube and look up Iron Maiden's, you know, singled out vocals, Bruce Dickinson, I don't know, what's one they have up there? 2 Minutes to Midnight, maybe he's up there, or something off Power Slave, maybe it's Aces High, and you can hear all the reverbs and all the like doubled choruses and stuff. Just hearing that record with Blaze, you can tell. I mean, that dude's just got a microphone and he's just singing with the minimalistic reverbs, you know, and that's about all he's got. I mean, it's like he's just sitting there just singing into a mic. There's no, you know, oof to it. Like it's underproduced locally. I think that hurt people going, man, this guy's terrible, man. He's no Bruce Dickinson. We're not saying he is, but definitely the music they were doing, X Factor, Judgment of Heaven, one of my favorite Maiden tunes, and they never played it on the fucking tour. Pissed me off, man. I love Blazes. If you go on YouTube and look at him do that with a acoustic guy in it, I think it's a church from a few years ago, man. He does that song sitting there in a room. There's a girl playing violin, man. It's phenomenal. He could hit that. But yes, I do like it for the most part.
Yeah, Marty, you're falling behind on questions.
I am.
A couple more there.
Jeff Metal Madness 66 asks, "What's your favorite tour you've ever done?"
Well, we really, I don't know what you would call tours for Deceased. It took years for us to do a quote unquote tour. The first real tour we did at all was only a 2-week stint, and it was on Supernatural Addiction, where we went out and did the Contamination tour. We went out there, did stuff with it was like Zoom. Some nights it was Mortician. Some nights it was like all the bands on the label. Origin was on some. Cephalic Carnage was part of that thing too. Even Dillinger Escape Plan did some of those shows. That was pretty much the first taste. I would say, but when in the early, I think it was 2010 when we went out and did the whole United States, that was definitely cool. We just did the whole horseshoe. We went from East Coast all the way around Texas, all the way around up top. We were in Utah. We were up in Seattle. We come all the way around to Detroit, all that stuff. Full U.S. tour. That was cool. And then we only got to do a week, but going over to Europe in 2014 was definitely cool too. That was some places, and it was neat to see people that had been waiting like since the demo days of '86 to see us play. And I told the guys, I don't know what to expect going to Europe. Are we going to be playing to the wall? Are we going to be playing to some people? And it varied. You know, we played some places in Germany. You get a couple of people come out. And it's just a Monday night thing. And then we go into like a place like we were in Holland, and it was fucking insane. And people stage diving start to finish, waiting, wearing the shirts, homemade pins, patches. Wow. And it was cool. But I love it all, man. I just love to play, man. Again, playing in Wacken to 30,000 people, or playing to basement parties to, a couple drunks was just hiding around the keg. It's all fun to me. I just love to play, man. I'm not in it for pat on the back or nothing. I just love to play, and I think the guys are the same way. We know this ain't paying the bills, nothing like that. Just get in the van and go, man.
All right. Jesse from Arcane Activist Zine is asking your favorite black metal album.
Well, I mean, are we going for the old school black metal, which I grew up with, which includes Merciful Fate and Venom, that type? If we're going for something like that, then I don't even think it's really that black metal of a thing. I love the Venom Warhead EP. It's one of my all-time favorite things, and I'll tell you why. Lady Lust is a great fucking ripper.
Oh, it's a great song.
Is a great sludger, and then Seven Gates of Hell is a great epic one. So like that. Yep. If you're going for something a little more modern, and we're still not going that modern now that it's 2021, I love Master's Hammer Ritual album. I think that's a phenomenal record for something a little bit later on. That's like the kind of stuff I go to. For a lot of the later stuff than that, I've listened, I've heard pieces here and there. Once in a while, it's usually the drummer I like in those kind of bands because of the speed factor and things like that. But my heart lies in Don't Break the Oath. That's where, if you're going to ask me black metal, that's still where my heart lies. And that's the truth.
All right. M. Cubero is asking, King, if time machines become the next big thing, let's say if you were allowed to use it, What period of time in your career would you like to go back to? What would you make different and why? Thanks.
The Blueprints for Madness era. I guess it'd be like 93. That's when I was playing the best drums of my time playing drums. And I think that was our most creative time. But the problem, two things about that era: we never had a set place to practice. We were either renting out places to be, or trying to go to somebody's basement and hope the cops didn't come and take it away from us. So we didn't have a set place. So we were like sporadically putting together the Blueprints for Madness album, which I really love the record. And then the second part of that would be, I would have somebody help us fucking produce and mix that fucking record, because there's a lot of stuff that people will never hear. I went back and tried to remix it and make it sound better, and it just can't happen. A lot of the tones on the guitars went to tape bad, things like that. But I would love to hear that record the way it was meant to be, because when we played it in the room, or actually when we played it in the studio, for the most part, it had what we were going for. That's where I would go back to. You know, that's fun, but it's all, you know, it's all learning lessons, and I don't like changing anything. It's just part of the whole procedure of our existence. But if I had to choose one, it would definitely be, I'd say, the Blueprints for Madness era.
Okay.
Right on. Ash, go ahead.
Oh yeah, I saw the Ash question, but go ahead, Marty.
King, this is from Ash Bowen. You had a favorite underground new wave of British heavy metal song group? ? Do you have a favorite underground new wave of British heavy metal song?
Well, I guess underground. I mean, there's a few. There's a lot of songs I love that aren't necessarily underground. I mean, some of my favorite new wave of British heavy metal singles or songs, I'm always going to love "Don't Need Your Money" from Ravens, one of my favorites. I'd rather go "Wild" from Witch Fiends, another one of my favorites. Something a little less known. Wow. I love the Reaper from Grim Reaper before they got Grimmett in the band, from the Heavy Metal Heroes comp. That's one of my favorites. Or something like Rock Japan from Exposer is another song I love. Something really underground new wave of British heavy metal. Nothing really stands out as like a great songs. There's some great groups in there. I've always liked the band Chevy. They weren't necessarily the heaviest. They were almost at times Bob Segery, but they had a song called "Cold and Lonely Feeling" from their first album that I've always loved a lot. It's almost April Wine-ish, but I'll go with that one as one of my favorites. Or something from the Sterling Cook Force, which was on a new wave of British heavy metal label, but weren't necessarily a new wave of British heavy metal band. They were on Ebony, but they were actually, I'm in Pennsylvania. They live, Sterling. The guy, he lives like 30 minutes from me now. He's a religious guy, and he plays the steel guitar. But I know you, Alan, you would remember the Full Force album and things like that from the Sterling Cook Force. But let's go with Chevy, "Cold and Lonely Feeling."
That's a good one to shout out. Yeah, The Taker's a cool album, and you're right. It very much leans out of heavy metal territory at times.
It's Bad Company, a little bit of April Wine. If you're going to go for, there's moments it's heavy, there's some double harmonies, Iron Maiden-ish for about 2.5 minutes on a 40-minute record. But yeah, "Cold and Lonely Feeling" is just a cool song. It would have been a good Bob Seger song.
Mm-hmm.
Michigan represent.
There you
go. Patrick Meager asks, what's your favorite music documentary?
King of Metal Life, still to be done. That's my buddy Patrick making the movie. I love you, Patrick. Buddy, yeah, we've been working on this movie called King of Metal Life for years now, and he's busted his ass. It's about 1.5 years out, I'd say. Maybe still. He's doing a thing on my life. Great guy, love him to death, dear friend. And it's King of Metal Life. Even though it's not out yet, I can already see it in my mind. It's in 3D. And sometimes in VD. Love you, Patrick, buddy.
Does Carl Koger's asking, does Deceased have a replacement for Dave? Rest in peace.
We got Amos Rifkin playing drums for the last few years. He's playing drums live. He may play on the new record. I'm going to try to see if I can play drums for the new record. When we did Surreal Overdose, which was 2 albums back, when Dave actually had his girl had a baby, he took some time off, and I said, well, I'm going to try to play again in Surreal Overdose, and I did it. I had a stroke in 2004, for those that don't know. I got the left side of my body torn up. I'm left-handed, so these 2 fingers here, the pinky and the next finger over, are totally fucked up. So when it comes to playing drums, if it's Iron Maiden or something heavy metal, October 31-ish, it's not that hard to do. I'm just swinging the sticks. But if it's something with speed behind it or thrash, the way I hold the sticks to begin with, it could be a problem. We did it with Surreal Overdose. I basically laid down all the drum tracks for that album in 6 hours. We just got it completely done. And then I was in severe fucking pain for 2 weeks afterwards. But Amos Rifkin is a guy that played in a band called Death of Kings. We toured together 2018, and then at the end of it, Dave told me the weirdest story. Dave told me, if anything ever happens to me, man, get this motherfucker because he can play this shit. And I said, okay, brother. And then 3 months later, Dave died. It was so weird. And the same week, I got a letter after that happened from Amos saying some really kind things. Dude, you guys were great on tour. You're like family. I respect the shit out of you. Ever need any help with the band, I'd love to help out. And the weirdest part of it all was, even before I got that letter, I had went to Shane, our other guitar player, and I said, man, he was asking what we were going to do. I said, man, we should look into this guy Amos. That's what Dave said to do. Then the letter came through. And then by the time we got together, I told him learn, 12 songs by, I guess that was like late November. And by like February, March, he came down he lives in Atlanta. I'm in Philadelphia area. The other guys are in DC. We practice basically in DC. We all got together. He came up. He knew everything. We could have played a show the very first time ever with him. We could have played a show that night without fuck ups. We won't go in half-ass and say, oh, we're going to get better in a couple of weeks. When we go to play, one thing about Deceased, it's never going to be half-ass. It's always going to be fucking completely ready for whatever the hell we're taking on at the time. So a guy named Amos Rifkin, he's been playing for a few years now. He's great. He's done a bunch of live shows with us. We're going to be in Texas here in November. He'll be doing 3 more with us in Houston, Austin, and San Antonio in November. Great guy, great drummer. Rest in peace, Dave.
Absolutely. What a tragedy.
Sucks.
Miss Nikki Goods asks, Mr. King, would you ever consider remastering or at least re-releasing your October 31 material? That's my favorite, but it's hard to find.
Yeah, we actually re-released the CDs on Hell's Headbanger a few years ago, all of them except for No Survivors. We should probably be doing it again at some point. What basically happens is I think they pressed 1,000 or 2,000 copies back then just to get it back out there, because the earlier pressings, RIP Records on the early days, that came and went so fast. And then I did some on my label, Old Metal. Those came and went fast. Then we were actually on Metal Blade for a minute with Meat Time Maker, which they put a 2-on-1 out with Visions of the End. That went away because I tore up the contract with Metal Blade because I wasn't happy with it after I signed it. So, yes, they will all come back out through Hell's Headbangers. The vinyls did come back out a few years ago. I think the big plan for the band there is the No Survivors, which did not get a CD release when everything else did. And that'll come back out on CD and it'll come back out on vinyl. The vinyl came out a few years ago on Maniacal Records. I say a few years ago, it's probably fucking 15 years ago now. Maniacal Records, which is a friend of mine, Mike, out of Virginia, who does a great label. He did the vinyl for it back then. In Thrash Corner, which is a friend of mine, Ray Lopez, out of Puerto Rico, he put that CD out. It was between when we left Rip and Metal Blade and we were looking for a label. And then Hell's Headbangers picked us up after that and we did Bury the Hatchet with them. So, yes.
M. Cubero, King, is there any slim possibility of a cassette box set with all the Deceased albums included, just like the ones released by Floga in Greece? Greetings from Costa Rica.
Greetings to you from King of Prussia, Russia, King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Yes, I think the box set is something that Hell's Headbangers has talked about doing, putting everything out in cassettes in a box set. So, yeah, I'd like to do something neat, maybe a little graveyard where each one has its own tombstone and it kind of like sets up like a Kiss stage and you open up the tombstones and behind each one there's an album. So, yeah, something like that, or, something unique, like when we did the coffin set for the vinyls for the demos and things like that.
Mm-hmm. Knowing your history a bit, you always had kind of a contentious relationship with Relapse. I mean, how is it now going forward working? I mean, like Hell's Headbangers releasing all the old stuff. I mean, is that a million hoops to jump through for something like that to happen, or has that all been smoothed out?
The truth of the matter is this. I called up Matt from Relapse when we left the label in 2003, we'll say. And I said, we're leaving the label effective immediately. If you guys want to re-release any of our stuff, go ahead. If I want to release any of our stuff, I'm going to go ahead. I said, we used to be the best of friends. It turned awful. I just lost their everything was coming out of them was just fucked up to me. It was just a lot of false promises, a lot of empty promises, just things like that, which made us walk away from the label. And we have, since then it's just been us doing our thing and they've been doing their thing. I can't stop them from doing what they want to do, and they don't stop me from doing what I want to do. It's been fine. Good. And there's been no issues at all. And they've moved on from it. And we've moved on from it. I'm not as angry as I was then with them. Matt knows, he heard me directly phone call to phone call, talk about it all. Me and Bill, the old co-owner. We're the best of friends. Me and Matt never talk. It is what it is, and that's fine. But yeah, no, I'm very happy. Hell's Headbangers is the best. They've been so fucking supportive. Everything they've ever said they do, they've done it tenfold, and that is not an exaggeration. And that's the way I work, man. I'm from the old school of a handshake goes a long way to me, both verbally and in person. And it's just something we've done. And, we're getting ready to do a new record on the label with them, Children of the Morgue with Deceased, and hopefully a new October 31 album as well, Ye Old Peril. And I couldn't be happier to be in this situation in my early 50s and stuff. We served our time over there. They helped us tremendously, Relapse. I will never take that away from them. It's just as we went on and on, we just went left and they went right, and we didn't come back to a middle peak. They just got, a new way of looking at things when business started to get good for them, and we just kind of stayed ourselves, I feel. And that's just where it all kind of went to a head at 2003. We were there 13 years. So it was the 13 frightened years.
Yeah. Well, the cool thing is you were on the right label at the right time. I mean, that early Relapse era was really cool. It really was. There was a lot of great shit being put out, and it was cool that you guys were a part of that. And I understand as things went on, the label kind of changed and business.
Yeah, it's not just coming out of my mouth that it changed. There's a lot of bands that can tell you horror stories, but that's almost any record label. That's what just makes the time with Hell's Headbangers that much better, because it's. I mean, we've been there a while now, man. I mean, what got us to Hell's Headbangers was it was in 2000 on that Contamination tour I was talking about. We were in Ohio, and these two kids came up. They looked almost identical. I guess they were, I found out later they were all like twin brothers, or just, from the same mother. They all looked very much alike. And they said, man, we love Deceased. We'd love to put out this wooden coffin thing with you guys. And it'll be like this made by the Amish, handmade. And I was like, okay. When they left, I was like, yeah, they're blowing smoke up my ass. Ain't never going to happen. And then a couple of years later, we played again, and the guy comes in, one of them, and he goes, "Here you go. Here's the prototype of what it's going to be." And it's fucking 3 foot, and it's a wooden coffin with, Deceased on it. And I'm like, holy shit, they really are doing this, And it just showed me that, with determination, which I'm abundance and determination and get things done, that I was on the same level with somebody else that wanted to work as hard as I did to make it reality, man. And genuine and honest. I mean, that goes a long way, man. I'm from that old school, man. I mean, you say you're going to do it, fucking do it. If not, don't even fucking bring it up.
Right.
Yep.
Well, I guess that's it for now. We might as well get into some Black Sabbath.
Yep. Good set of questions. Thanks to everybody in the chat.
Yes, thank you very much, guys. Thanks for giving a fuck. Cheers to you. Up the Tombstones. Up the watermelon seltzer water on a Friday night. It's a lot different than I used to be on Friday nights in the past.
All right, so we're gonna start off.
Am I holding them up?
Yeah. Well, you're first, so you might as well just start. You can.
When last we left, the band was in a bit of a crossroads. Ozzy had left the fold, and where do you go from there? You've lost a very iconic frontman. Your last couple of albums have not gone over well in terms of sales, and then something happens.
Heaven and Hell happens.
That happens.
Yeah. Okay, right, Heaven and Hell. I remember seeing the artwork at the Zare department store for the old timers. Zare. I was like, look at these angels smoking. It was weird as shit. And I didn't buy the record then. I didn't know that much about Black Sabbath at the time I saw this record in 1980. But I remembered the record. And by the time I heard the song Heaven and Hell on the radio, I didn't know it was Black Sabbath yet, because my experience with Black Sabbath up there, which I talked about last week, was Planet Caravan on a fucking Paranoid tape going, these guys are hippie bullshit. I didn't know the heavier side of the Ozzy stuff, and I sure as fuck didn't know what this was. But I kept hearing this song on the radio at the time, and I was like, man, this shit here's killer. Who is it? One day it said, that was Black Sabbath with Heaven and Hell. Full song, including the acoustic outro of the song. I fell in love. I saw, I went on to see the tour that year, blah, blah, blah. The record's phenomenal. The record is fucking phenomenal. You talk about a fucking swift kick in their ass and the fucking world's ass. They upped the ante. They upped the tempo. Ronnie James Dio, one of the greatest voices in the history of anything to do with heavy music, heavy rock, metal, whatever you want to call it. He came in there. I mean, you drop the needle anywhere on this thing, even the lowest of cut, which I would go with Walk Away as the lowest of cut. Still fantastic. Sure. I mean, side one, Neon Nights, Children of the Sea, just hearing it fade out and right into that acoustic of Children of the Sea. That's legendary. My favorite track on this record is Wishing Well. I love Wishing Well. I think it's such a cool song. I think they should have released it as a single. Just something about that last verse, that someday, some way, you'll hear the things I say. And Bill with that roll, dream for a while. That, man, this is Walk Away is not a perfect song, but
I like that song a lot too, though. It's a good deep.
Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it ain't wishing well. No. Die Young. I mean, I'm just looking at the whole thing. I know these songs by heart. Lonely is the Word, one of the most darkest, hauntingest fucking songs they ever did. And then the coolest thing outside of the music is this picture where they all look like they're presidents from the 1800s. I mean, every time I look at this, I think it's like Geezer Butler's looks like fucking like Benjamin Franklin or something. It's weird. And I love this fucking record so much. I mean, it is definitely deserves everything about its praise. I mean, everybody knows this goes down as one of the highest rated Black Sabbath records ever made, from the artwork. And let's not forget two more things from my end. Martin Birch coming in. Mm-hmm. You bring in Martin Birch, things will change. He definitely shaped the Dio-era Sabbath for sure.
Yep.
And second off, I do want to say, because I know it's coming off of Never Say Die, I do still hear those riffs from Never Say Die within this record. I know that people say there's a version of Children of the Sea with Ozzy attempting it. I doubt that exists as that. Maybe there's something with that melody. I think true. I agree with you. But if you listen to something on here, get into some of the middle break of Lady Evil and stuff, you can hear that open jam leftover riffing from Never Say Die to a degree. It's Martin Birch-ized. It's basically that's all fat, guys. Let's get to the fucking meat of this motherfucking album. And they did. It's a perfect score for me, 100 out of 100.
Nice. Yeah, the point about Ozzy trying that, I know they tried working on that song a little bit with Ozzy before he was finally out and out, and it just wasn't going anywhere. And that was the problem. They had hit a brick wall. They just weren't going to move forward anymore with Ozzy. He was not into it, and they were at an impasse. Yeah, and members, they've told the story over and over that Ronnie comes in, sits down with them, they play a few riffs, and he's just immediately putting vocals on top of it, and it just clicks like that. And they're just like, holy shit, we've been struggling, for quite some time now to get anything written, and this guy walks in and just all the pieces fall into place. And like you said, you've got an incredible vocalist who falls right into your lap. He's out of Rainbow and he's ready for a new gig. You're ready for a new vocalist, and the stars align. And you get a really incredible album that, and like you said, it's a fan favorite. I think a lot of people rank it as their favorite Dio album. It's got tons of great songs. Heaven and Hell, of course, is iconic. Die Young might be my favorite on it. It's on side 2. The only thing I can say that there's 2 points I want to make. One, like you said, it totally gives the band a kick in the ass. They've been flat for a while, and they come roaring back with this album, firing on all cylinders. Martin Birch getting them in gear, the songwriting's there, everything's back in place, and they're one of the few 70s heavy metal bands that made that successful leap into the 80s and stayed heavy. That a lot of the other bands were either breaking up or very much changing their sound. Deep Purple's a thing of the past by this, and when they come back, they very much come back just sounding like sort of an 80s rock band.
Right.
Led Zeppelin disappears at the start of the decade. Other bands like Scorpions and UFO, they're all kind of reinventing themselves for better or for worse as you switch the decade. And Sabbath comes back in, and it's just, there's no doubt that they still want to be a real heavy fucking metal band with this. The other point to make, the only one detraction I've heard about the album, and I think it's a fair criticism, it's something I heard Martin Popoff say once, was that the only thing about this album is, while it's a great album with a lot of great songs, it doesn't feel like Black Sabbath is leading the field of heavy metal anymore. They're a part of it and a good part of it. But, throughout the Ozzy years, they were always, the vanguard of heavy metal. They were always 2 steps ahead of everybody else. And, like we talked about last week, they make probably the first heavy metal record. And 2 albums later, they're making the first doom metal record. And 2 albums after that, they're making the first prog metal record. They're always ahead of the game. And at this point, it feels like they're more part of the team. That, this album is not redefining heavy metal. It's not on the cutting edge of what's being done. In a way,
let me move my chess piece. What other record in heavy metal sounds like this record that you're saying they don't lead with? What else is like this? I can't think of one other record.
No, not that it's not a good album.
I really personally, I thought they were. I got to disagree with Martin on that one. I think it definitely was a leader thing. I thought it was a whole new sound for Sabbath, yet it was still 100% Iommi and Geezer, and it just fit. If anything about this record is weird, it's the Bill Ward syndrome. He really simplified his playing on this record more so. I mean, he always, as you know, he's always wide open. He scaled his playing down so much inside of those tunes. It almost at times, and I mean this as a drummer and a listener of drummers, it almost doesn't sound like Bill Ward at times. I know it is, but I just never thought any other record sounds like this. I would love to hear another band sound like this, but I agree with you. It's not the heaviest thing on earth. We all know Judas Priest was fucking going to the double guitar attack, and here comes Maiden. I'm like that too. But I just thought this record had such Neon Nights created a new kind of sound. I don't even think it fits in with new wave of British heavy metal stylings. That was coming out.
No, not that it does, but it's just I think that may have been more Martin's point, that you feel like these other things are going on in heavy metal that are getting more attention. You feel like the twin guitar attack and speeding things up, or you're kind of seeing the future of heavy metal is going in that direction. And Sabbath's putting out a great album. They're still very much a metal force, but they're not doing that new leading edge thing that metal's going to follow.
I can agree with that. I do think they were an underdog around that time too.
They were, and I think, and we can talk about this with the next album too. I think getting these heavy albums out with Dio at the dawn of the decade did a lot to cement their legacy as a heavy metal band. A big part of me wonders if Dio doesn't join the band and they just do not do anything after Ozzy leaves, what would people think of Sabbath today? Would we call them heavy metal, or would we call them just a 70s hard rock band, and put them in the same category that people?
I agree. It kind of latched itself on, and you got the best of both worlds because of it.
Yeah, no, it worked out good. But yes, like I said, so many of the other bands didn't make that transition as a heavy metal unit, and Black Sabbath succeeded at it. So I'm glad they did. But it's an interesting what if scenario that they, for a little bit.
That is a good what if scenario. I'm cool with that.
Good.
What do you think, Marty? Now that you're thawed out.
It's probably my second. It's probably my second favorite Sabbath album. And I remember reading an interview with Dio a long time ago. I don't remember the source, but he basically said his first meeting with Tony and the band, they got together and they were working on, and they basically, the product of their union was, that meeting was Children of the Sea. Mm-hmm. So I don't know if there were a couple riffs laying around, but Dio got in there, sat down, and they finished.
Dio was on bass on that early version too, I think.
Really? Yeah, He played bass in the early days.
He came in there and he was demoing the stuff on bass for a while, and then there's talk about Jeff Nichols being involved in some way, and then Geezer came later. But that's what I've heard that too. What you're saying.
Yep. And this to me sounds like a band completely rejuvenated. This album sounds fresh. It sounds alive. And let's face it, we've got 4 singers in Dio in Black Sabbath. Ozzy isn't even, I don't think Ozzy is the best in the top 2. that might be a hot take.
He's a personality more so.
He's a person. I mean, I love his vocals. I mean, there's just it's like putting on a pair of pants that are all stretched out and they fit you perfectly. I mean, that's kind of what Ozzy's vocals are to me. But Dio, he has got such a range. There's so much passion in this guy's vocal performance. He proved himself to me endlessly with his stint in Rainbow. Rainbow Rising is one of my all-time favorite albums of all time. This guy's got such a great ear for harmonies. He's got such a strong voice and such a bluesy warmth, but he can take it into really mystical, good places. A lot of passion and emotion, and that really benefited Black Sabbath a ton. I mean, a ton. I think with his tool in the Black Sabbath shed, it allowed. It sounds to me like the music, though maintaining a Sabbath feel, got a little more complex, a little more adventurous. Walk Away, I really like that song. Wishing Well is a great fucking song, and it's deep cut on the album. Lady Evil, you got to have Dio singing about how the women did him wrong.
Right.
Neon Nights, Children of the Sea. I mean, there isn't a turd on this album. There really isn't. Lonely is the Word ends on such a dark, poignant fucking statement. It's a great album. Absolutely great. I wish it's hard deciding of the first two Dio Sabbath albums, which is my favorite, but this isn't the one. This isn't the one. We're getting to that. I mean, this is fantastic and amazing, but I will say Heaven and Hell, the title track, is kind of fallen into Paranoid territory for me. I really don't need to hear that song. It's kind of the hit of the album. I mean, he played it up through the Dio era, and it just I'd rather hear them play Wishing Well Alive.
I'll put it this way. I've never thought Heaven and Hell was a great live song from them. I've always preferred the studio version because you also get the acoustic outro, which to me is more important than people think to that. It's just a great finish to the song. It works better. I've been that way with a couple songs. If you were to talk Iron Maiden, I always thought Run to the Hills was better on the record than live. There's just songs like that for me. And, them turning that Heaven and Hell bass line into a 20-minute plod with talking about everything, it is what it is. I mean, don't get me wrong. I still love hearing it live, but I'm with you. It became the thing. It was always Heaven and Hell / Paranoid at the end of the show with like 17 minutes in there of whatever they want to throw in there for a minute,
And Martin Birch's contribution cannot be understated on this either. I mean, he
agreed.
I mean, for me, he really captured the Sabbath sound, yet brought it into this new Dio era. It's the same, but it's different. It's more composed. It seems more together, and
it's controlled for sure.
Controlled, and I mean, he did the same thing with Maiden. I mean, you listen to the Martin Birch recorded Maiden albums, and you listen to the Kevin Shirley recorded Maiden albums.
Yes,
I think they had so many years of being told what to do and how to do it. They're at the twilight of their career. They're like, we want a yes man that's going to do what we want to do. We don't.
Right.
Bruce doesn't want to go in there. He doesn't want to go in there and scream "No more lies" 500 times to get at the end of it. Have him say, "Oh, the first take was the best one." That's what Martin Birch did, but he brought the best out of the musicians. This is a different topic, but that's one thing that I think these Kevin Shirley era of Maiden is lacking, is that he isn't bringing the best out of the band. I think there's a lot of good in the band, but he's not bringing.
Well, if you want to cue this up to last week, anybody wants to just take it from the end of last one into this one, this will be a thing of interest. It wasn't Tony Iommi running the show anymore as a producer. You know what I'm saying? Even with outside guys, they actually had somebody telling them, you're going to do it like this. And I think that's what Martin Birch really did to bring it in, because Tony Iommi was just like, hey, I'm not really a fucking producer here, but it seems like I'm fucking producing these records here for the last few. And we all know he didn't have his fucking nostrils closed off to the world. You know what I mean? Martin Birch knocked that out of his hand and said, look, dude, you're better than this shit. Do this and then do that. I think that's had a lot to do with it,
Yeah, that's a really good point, King. Yeah. All right. So they're back on the map, roaring back to life with Heaven and Hell. And about a year later, what happens next, King?
The mob rules. If you listen to Fools, the mob rules. This came out, and this fucking record here, that's the proper one, not the fuck the CD. That record right there that Marty's got in his hand. Look at that album cover. That's my all-time favorite album cover by any band.
Yep.
And this one has the specialist place in my heart because this is 1981 Black Sabbath. This was the year I discovered Black Sabbath. I would say I was 13 years old. And as I mentioned last week, like I said earlier, that fucking goddamn Planet Caravan song was all I knew of the Ozzy era. Really, I may have heard something on the radio that I didn't even know was Black Sabbath as a kid. But this was the record I went out and saw the tour. We were told, my friend's dad went to get us AC/DC for those about to rock tickets. They only had bullshit seats left. He got Black Sabbath. We were sad at the moment because I was thinking we're gonna go see hippie rock. It was almost like I was comparing it to the Grateful Dead. Like, oh man, this fucking Crosby, Stills and Nash and Black Sabbath and America, that kind of Neil Young. This is what I'm gonna be fucking seeing. And I couldn't understand why he bought it. And he's like, Black Sabbath's great. You're gonna love it, right? And then, as I said, the last thing I heard this song on the radio, I fell in love with it was Heaven and Hell. And then they started playing from this record. The radio song for this record was Voodoo in our town. DC 101 played Voodoo. That was the fucking song they were playing. And I went out and bought this record right before the tour, right before I saw the show. And it was like on fire because here's the thing. I did not have the Heaven and Hell record just yet. So all I knew was Heaven and Hell song, and they were playing Neon Nights and Children of the Sea from time to time from that record on the radio. And I'm learning the ropes here, so it's not all like it is now where you know what's going on. And I got this record, and when that fucking hi-hat came on for Turn Up the Night, it was ugly. It was raw. It was nasty. The guitar tone was so much more insane than Heaven and Hell. It's like it was wide open, like these amps were like on 5,000. And I just put that record on, and I sat there, and Turn Up the Night went into fucking Voodoo, and fucking Voodoo went into fucking Sign of the Southern Cross, and then the E5150, which I did see the heavy metal movie. So I'd actually heard the Mob Rules on the heavy metal, which was only 1 minute of the movie hidden behind the audio of the film. And it just went from there. I mean, you sit here and Country Girl, there's nothing on. Slipping Away is a lot like Whitesnake. If you listen to some of the stuff from the Burn album, you'll actually almost hear the same kind of riffing in there. Fucking phenomenal. Falling Off the Edge of the World just blew my face off. And over, to me, is the darkest Black Sabbath song they've ever done. I think it's one of the slow burners. I think it's one of the most haunting songs, one of the best Iommi leads ever. And the thing about this record that got me the most was I could not believe how fucking heavy it was, because Heaven and Hell is fucking heavy, but it's subdued heavy. You put this thing on and it bites your speakers like werewolves. It's just like, it's attacks. It's so raunchy, so ugly, so fucking loud. And then I went and saw this fucking concert, and this was the first concert I ever went to without my mother or my family. It was me and my buddy Marcel. Michael Schenker group, Are You Ready to Rock, was playing on the PA. Somebody passed some fucking weed. It's one of the early days of me smoking pot, thinking I'm cool. And they come out and they just blow our faces off. They come into Neon Nights, and by the time they got to the Heaven and Hell plotting bit, they brought down the cross. It had the fire around it on this tour. They had the backdrop of the Mob Rules album cover, which was blowing my mind. And he said, I'm going to burn in hell with all of you. And I just said to myself, and I'll never forget this, getting goosebumps telling this. It was December 3rd, 1981. I just said, I give my fucking life to heavy metal. It wasn't I sold my soul to rock and roll. It was I give my life to heavy metal. And that's when I knew this is what I'm going to do with the rest of my fucking life, was this. And I'm watching this little guy. I'm back. I'm in the deep seats. I'm off the floor. I'm in the back up on the right. I'm watching this little guy with this huge voice, and this fucking guy with this big ass mirror cross, and this fucking geezer Butler. And I don't know who the hell Vinny Appice is at the time. I just see this big barrage of drums, and they're all hanging on the sides. It's just overwhelming. It is the devil. It's attacking me in my senses. And we bought the Mob Rules jersey, the black sleeves, the white with the logo, the album cover in the back said Mob Rules store. I still have it upstairs. I wouldn't give that away for nothing in this world. And me and Marcel wore it to school every fucking day from December 3rd until school let out in June. And that year, we just kept wearing them, telling everybody, Sab's the best, fuck the rest. And I know I sent you that picture this week, Marty. You saw that picture I sent you with my aunt. And that's all I got to say. This is my favorite Black Sabbath album, Mob Rules. This is my all-time favorite record. It's because of the songs, because of everything about it. Martin Birch again, let him loose a little bit. Maybe his nostrils opened up a little bit on this, because it's definitely more raunchy. Yeah. And it touches my heart in a way that very few records ever could. This is 110 out of 100 record for me. Yeah.
I gotta agree with pretty much everything there. This is my favorite Sabbath album, and if I sat down and did the math, I'm pretty sure it would be in my top 10 albums of all time of any style. This album is just fucking amazing. It's, like you said, yes, it's got a much dirtier, rawer sound than Heaven and Hell, and it works great. The cover art, the stout painting is just, it's creepy as hell. It's, perfect for the mood of the album. And you go through side A, and it's just one of the best sides of heavy metal ever recorded. Turn Up the Night. They could just stop the album right there, and they've already recorded one of the best heavy metal tracks ever. That thing just drives so hard. But yeah, it runs right into Voodoo, which is amazing. It goes into Sign of the Southern Cross, which, don't hold me to it 5 days from now, but that might be my favorite Black Sabbath song ever. It's a better version of Heaven and Hell. It's elegant, it's classy, it's dark, it is crushingly heavy. That song is just perfection. You go through, the cool instrumental you get into, and the Mob Rules is, just absolutely fabulous. there is nothing that could be improved about that side of that record, I don't think. And really nothing that can be improved on side 2 either. It just keeps going and going. Everything you said about it is spot on the money. It's an amazing record. And yeah, so many people always pick Heaven and Hell as their favorite Dio album, and it's a great album, but it's not even close for me. The Mob rules, and Heaven and Hell is, definitely a step down from that, which is saying something, because as we discussed, it's a great album. Very few albums ever recorded stand up to this one.
I would say Sign of the Southern Cross is Dio-era Black Sabbath, their Black Sabbath song. Like Ozzy had the song Black Sabbath as their most harrowing, taunting, demonic tune. I would say Sign of the Southern Cross is the Dio-era, that song. Because that's another thing about this record. It's a lot more evil. Even the songs that are Turn Up the Night and stuff, we know they don't go there. But when they go into that vibe, that dread, they can build it so good. Falling Off the Edge of the World is another one that just builds that dread, They didn't really they didn't really go that route too much on Heaven and Hell. I mean, I think Die Young might have been the closest they came to it.
No, they didn't. But yeah, they've really got it here. Yeah, and I wonder if a little bit of that, thinking off the top of my head, is the changing drummer. As we've talked about, Bill Ward, he's doing all this stuff, but we also know that he was having issues by the time you got into the early 80s, with health and playing, and you bring in Vinny, and all the guys in the band always described Vinny, he's just a pounder. He'll sit there and hold the fucking beat as long as you go. He's not going to do all this crazy fills and little things like Bill would do, but he's going to sit there and just drive that fucking song home like nobody's business. I'll be honest, I'm not a big Vinny guy as far as his drumming. I'm never big on him, but this album here, he's the perfect fit for this record. He's just he does it right. I mean, he does it. Every hit is where it needs to be. I can't say I won't. As we get to the other albums with him, the Sabbath, I don't always agree with his speeds or his tempos, but this one is perfect.
Yep, he's definitely kind of a sloppy drummer, but like you said, Alan, he's got a really heavy hand, and just the power. I mean, it comes through on this album. It's more of a roomy sound. It's not as tight as Heaven and Hell was. Very boomy, and it really lends a lot of air to move in these songs. I mean, I agree with everything. This is my all-time favorite Sabbath record, hands down. It's my all-time favorite Dio record, hands down.
Me too.
It'd be really hard putting this up against Rainbow Rising. That to me, that's a tough call, because I like that album just as much as this one, but different players, different vibe. But it's this album. I mean, it's even like how Lonely is the Word ended Heaven and Hell, like a long, kind of sad, depressive thing over and over. It's kind of the same thing for me. It's a great ending to an amazing album. A lot of sadness and passion in it, and how Tony takes out with that fucking awesome lead work. It's like
one of his best leads ever, one of the best leads ever recorded by anybody. I mean, it's so emotional, man.
It's so emotional. It's one of those songs. As soon as it's done fading out in the car, I'll hit it back. I'll listen to it 3 more times on the trip. It's just so.
So you're saying you listen to over and over, right?
Over and over, yeah. Hair on the arm stands up, nipples get hard.
There you go.
But I mean, there isn't a bad song on this. I mean, you got Country Girl. I mean, Rainbow Rising had Terror Woman, and we had Lady Evil here, and now we got Country Girl.
Yeah, he loves those songs. You're right about that, man.
He must have gotten done wrong by some lady back in the day that really kind of stuck with him. I don't know, but
yeah, back in his days of the Witches Valley.
Sign of the Southern Cross, absolutely perfect song. Dark, so emotive. Mob
so
rule.
Good. And one thing I think before we move on, I'll let you finish out, is one thing we need to talk about too is Jeff Nichols' keyboard's contributions on these, man. His that hold of the right notes and things. I know he's not doing a lot there, but it's there. That presence brings that aura of, like I was saying, that dread.
Yeah,
it's there. I don't want to forget Jeff, because he especially on like Sign of the Southern Cross, when they were playing it live, he'd always have that note just locked in, and Iommi's just doing this, and I'm just like, fuck, man, this is killing me. Satan's just eating my face off,
Yeah. No, that's a great point, King. Yeah, they didn't overuse him, but they knew exactly how and when to use them.
Yes,
it's funny because when this plays, I don't really think about keyboards. They're there,
exactly.
They're in the ether of it all, but it's not like like it on Never Say Die, Johnny Blade. It's like, I mean, there's none of that on here. It's just, it's part of the ether. It adds to the overall body and atmosphere of the album. And
I'm like with you. You don't hear them, but I tell you what, if you got a mix of that without them, it would feel different.
Exactly.
Sure.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
It wouldn't. It's a hovering, is what I'd call it. A hovering over the record.
Perfect record. Perfect. Absolutely perfect. No, that's it. Perfect. Next.
The band's absolutely killing it here with back-to-back albums. They're at the top of their game, and then they shit the bed. The wheels fall off again.
They don't shit the bed. Come on.
No, not with the album. But all of a sudden, Dio's gone.
Oh yeah.
That happened. Oops, forgot about that.
They've got their guy. They've got the magic. They've got the touch, and it falls apart. It's a real shame. Again, one of those big what if questions. What if Dio stays in Black Sabbath and they keep it together and move forward, still doing albums? Where would that have gone?
Albums.
Where would that have? What would they have been? What kind of monster force could they have been moving into the mid '80s?
I mean, they were on all cylinders for that. I mean, like I said, I saw the Mob Rules tour in late 81 in December. They came back in June and they did a summer tour, the Live Evil mini tour, which they were just trying to do some lock-ins for the live record. They were even better then. I saw them at an outdoor gig that summer. It was them and Johnny Van Zant band open. How's that with Johnny Van Zant and purple tights and a Confederate flag behind them? And what's weird, and I know it's not mentioned on the Live Evil. I know that's something different, but when they did that show, and he was talking about when he says, hey, he's talking about Vinny and stuff. When they did my show, exactly what's on that record is on. There it is, which is on my record. It's like they recorded it at my gig in Maryland, but it's not listed as a show they recorded. But damn, if it don't sound just like it. Maybe they took some of the audience and put it in there. Maybe it's something he said every night. I don't know, but it always blew my mind. But they were so good by then, and like you said, shit in the bed. I mean, you couldn't tell by them on stage, but I get we all know the personalities are starting to clash.
Yeah, a lot of personalities, egos, is things. The stars fell out of alignment, and so Dio's off to do a solo career, and they need vocalist number 3, and they recruit a man to do the next album. So what have we got next, King?
We got Born Again.
That's an ugly baby.
Born Again. Yeah.
I'm sorry, lady, but that is an ugly baby you've got.
Go ahead, do the vinyl. Bam. That I don't care. Anybody says that album cover's cool. I don't care. Anybody says I've always liked it. I've always liked the gold, weird, fucking everything about it.
Yeah, purple and gold.
That record, man, I saw them in Kerrang. They had the fucking picture, deep purple vocalist Ian Gillan joins Black Sabbath. There they are in there, and Bill Ward's back too. It's a super group. Yep. It's not supposed to be called Black Sabbath, but label says it's going to be Black Sabbath. And here comes fucking Don Arden, Sharon's father, to fucking take him down a certain road.
Yep.
Before I get a hold of the record, I see the first video on MTV, trashed. I'm blown the fuck away. It's a weird video, makes no sense. Gillan screaming his guts out. It's as raw and raunchy guitar-wise as Mob Rules, and I'm going to adjust to Gillan because I love Gillan's voice, one of my favorite singers. I thought he was another outstanding choice for the band at the moment because of his voice, not because of where they went with it. But got the record. Love the record, but didn't love the record. For me, looking at it now, and I'm not gonna go right into the Fallen, which the bonus track, but I got it, put the record on, had the lyrics in it. I started reading the lyrics before I even sat down to the record because I was just pulled the sleeve out, and I was like, these are definitely Gillan penned lyrics because it was weird. Came in with trashed 100 out of 100. I was like, here we go. That's this album's Neon Nights, Turn Up the Night. They're still got that fast ripping motherfucker.
They always know how to open an album. They always know what
they did not open an album. Stonehenge came and went, and fucking that was just what it was. Disturbing the Priest, another 100 out of 100. Here comes Gillan. Those screams are just so fitting. No. I'm falling in love with it. The production's muddy. I'm not worried about it at all. The dark comes and goes. We're doing those little effects kind of things, from the earlier records where he just has these short, whatever the fuck, nothing to them, just titles, I guess. Zero the Hero for me comes on. Didn't do a lot for me from the get-go. Plotting, I just found it kind of monotonous. I wasn't taken back by the riff like a lot of people were. I didn't find it that good. I liked it, but I didn't love it. I was like, okay, side one, you got 2 rippers, 2 fillers, and Zero the Hero. So I was like, okay, Digital Bitch came ripping in. I just caught Digital Bitch had come on a TV. There was a TV show back then called Rock and Roll Tonight. And they had some stuff on there where they did some stuff. Well, I saw a fucking Digital Bitch outtake of this back then. They never used it. Eventually, I guess it got out, but I was like, okay, that's where that riff's from. Because I saw some Blackfoot. I think I have it on an old VHS tape, just some Black Sabbath footage. It was 20 seconds. And I was like, that's where that riff's from. Love Digital Bitch. Came in again. It was up tempo. It had some things going on, like the bridges in the songs. Bill Ward had gone back to some more filler kind of fills and things. I loved it. Title track comes. My favorite song on the album. Simple, but something about it for me. I felt like this was Black Sabbath in a song, like just the whole thing. We're back again. It was like Never Say Die, but we're born again. We're back. It was so heavy. Every time he hit that chord going to the chorus and he would just go, born again, I would just freak out in my house. I'd have to have the fucking speakers on in 1 million. I'd just blow out the doors. And that was like, I was like, I don't care what the fuck happens the rest of the way. Whoa. Loved it. Hotline comes next, liked it. It reminded me of one of those more like walk away, slipping away, where it kind of like, hey, call me on the hotline to hell. I was like, okay, it's one of those kind of songs. They always seem to find one of those.
Yep.
Keep It Warm came on to close the record, and I thought it was very Deep Purple-ish. Ian Gillan solo, type of thing. I thought it was okay, but it didn't do what I was hoping it would do as a closer. It felt more like romantic than it felt eerie or dark or even like emotional, like we were saying with Lonely Is a Word or Over and Over. It didn't have that vibe to me. It was more like I don't know, just, hey baby, I'm coming home, be by the fire, and with the brandy's fucking on the table. It just didn't kick my ass like that. So I looked at the record. I'm looking at it now. I always say it would have made a great EP. if you'd have put Trash, Disturbing the Priest, fucking Digital Bitch, Born Again, and I'll even give it Hotline before Born Again, let the record close out with Born Again, it'd have been perfect. I don't care if the production was underproduced. Yes, it is. I don't care. I like the way it sounded for when I got it. The fidelity worked fine on my speakers. I just turned it up more. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. All those years later, when we got a hold of the Fallen song, I liked it. It didn't seem like it would fit on the record because I was so used to it in one way that it just seemed out of place. Like, okay, the B-side of the Trash single. Went and saw the tour. 12th Row, Quiet Riot opened up right when Come On Feel the Noise and Quiet Riot was taking over the world. They were opening. They were fantastic. Black Sabbath took the stage. He did not have the Baby in My Town dressed up, come out and make the whiny crybaby thing that people say exists. That some people have told me on Facebook that they saw it, but nobody's got a picture of it. Nothing. I've never seen a picture of this outlandish. They had a baby that supposedly came out and jumped off into some mattress. They came out. They opened up with Children of the Grave when I saw them. Gillan was forgetting lyrics left and right. It was so much smoke. They had the fucking Stonehenge, Spinal Tap type of thing, but it was so goddamn insane. It was so loud, but Gillan stunk when I saw him. He fucking stunk. And I'm a Black Sabbath. Sab's the best. Fuck the rest. And I saw this show and I was like, did Quiet Riot just blow Black Sabbath off the stage? I was like, what the fuck? And Iommi was phenomenal. Geezer was phenomenal. Fucking, they had Bev Bevan on drums from ELO because Bill Ward, he backed down again, and he was god awful. He couldn't even. It looked like he was like he was drum syncing it. It didn't even like he was even playing the songs. He was just dumbing it down. They played some oddities. Rock and Roll Doctor came out, Supernaut, things like that. And then at the end they did Paranoid, and then they did Smoke on the Fucking Water. And I was like, oh, no, they're doing Smoke on the Fucking Water. And he played the bongos. He had the bongos out there. The Gillan bongos were back. And when it ended, my friends looked at me and they were digging it, but I was disappointed. I was like, man, this was not that good. I mean, I got to be honest with myself. The record for me, I would give it a B, just a straight up B, because the songs are so good to make it an A. But I just Keep It Warm does nothing for me. It just does nothing for me. Zero the Hero is okay. It would have been okay as a filler. I got friends that's their favorite ones, and I'm sure you guys will talk about that. The production by Robin Black, that was kind of an oddity thing to go with that, but I guess it is what it is. A B. It's a B. I like the record. I love the baby artwork. I'll always appreciate that, but it just, it would have took a lot to beat Mob Rules, but it wasn't even in league with Heaven and Hell and fucking Mob Rules to me as an album.
No, it definitely wasn't. Yeah, all very great points, King, and I'd agree with it overall. When I listened to it, when I first heard this album, it took a little getting used to, because like you said, the production is a little jarring. Yes. It kind of works once you get used to it. I don't think it's terrible. It took some getting used to. It's funny hearing Ian in a different band, from Deep Purple, and he really does give it his all. He goes all in on those screams. He's going to try to sing for this heavy metal band and sound like a heavy metal screamer for sure, and that's cool. But yeah, for me today, at this point in time, it strikes me as it's a kind of fun album. You gave it a B. I think I'd give it like a B minus.
I almost said minus, so I think I left the minus for you.
Fair, yeah. It's and for me, that's usually an album. It's like I kind of like it, but it does have some obvious problems. That there is something holding it back a little bit. And yeah, like you said, as you go through the track list, on side A, you get 2 good songs. But you have 2 instrumentals, and then Zero the Hero never really clicked for me either. Funnily enough, at the school where my little boy's in 2nd grade, like one of their school mascots that goes around and hands out candy and pencil erasers and stuff to the kid is called Zero the Hero, and I just can't get over that at all. So every time Dean comes, he's like, Zero the Hero came to my class today. I'm just like, you mean Zero the Hero? And he has no idea what I'm doing, but he knows I'm trying to be funny.
Neither does Ian Gillan.
Yeah, but only 2 good songs on a side. That's not a real great side of music, even if those 2 songs are pretty good ones. And on side 2, I really like Hotline. Digital Bitch, Born Again, good songs. But also Keep It Warm. It feels very out of place on the album, and not in a good way. And this is a time period where, like you said, there are some weird things that are sort of off kilter. While Ian, everything I've read, was always that, Ian was, they were, good buddies with Ian, got along well in the band together, but everyone kind of always knew that Ian wasn't going to stick around real long. That this wasn't, a long-term commitment, that he was going to, sure, I'll be in the band and sure, we'll make a record, but nobody thought, hey, this is the guy we're going to spend the next 10 years with or anything. And just little things. His performances weren't always that great. The stupid bongos thing, wanting those, insisting on having those so that he had something to do with his hands. Stick them up your ass or something. You don't need to be playing the damn bongos with them.
Damn, Alan's vicious on a Friday night, Alan. And the Red Bull pumping.
I've had a Red Bull and a Sam Adams, so all kinds of shit's going on now.
Make an Ian Gillan puppet out of yourself and actually sing the fucking song right.
But you have the goofy, that ginormous Stonehenge set where the band contends that when they wrote out the plans, folks misread it and made it twice as big as it was supposed to be, and it became the root for the Spinal Tap joke.
Right.
You had the whole thing with the midget in the devil costume that was supposed to be jumping around on it. And supposedly they did yank, Tony has said, they yanked him real early because the whole road crew was just giving him so much shit and, pranking him so hard. They figured that they're going to kill this guy. One night, one of the stories Tony told was that, I don't know if they were starting the show or if they were just kind of rehearsing for the show, but the little guy was supposed to jump off of one of those giant Stonehenge pieces, and land safely. And right as he went to jump, some of, the roadies turned off all the lights. And so the little guy couldn't see where to jump, and he ended up smacking his head on the edge of the drum riser. And Tony was watching it, and so I was just like, oh my God, they just killed the midget.
Send him home.
He's like, I have no idea how that guy wasn't just didn't break his neck. And so they're just like, we got to send this guy home. He's going to, the roadies are going to kill him if you don't take him off the show. And so they told Don, no more midget. A funny little just piece of trivia from the past. The guy they hired to be in that little, red devil baby suit was one of the Ewoks in Return of the Jedi.
That's right. But let me ask you a question. You've never seen a picture of him in that costume either, right?
I have not seen a picture of him actually in the costume. No, I've read.
I've never seen one anybody anywhere.
But no, I've never actually seen it. So yeah, it's just weird. The band is there's some issues going on. It's nothing devastating on any of these things, but the little things are starting to maybe add up a tad. And so yeah, it's kind of a fun album, but it's not their strongest. It's not one I go back and listen to a ton. When I do, I enjoy it, but it's not something I'm going to reach for very often on Sabbath's catalog. Right. So that's my take on Born Again. Marty, what's your take?
This album for me is a late bloomer for me. When I first got this record, it was kind of a head scratcher. It's very murky sounding. Sabbath went from the tight heaviness of Birch to a real boomy reverb again. It seems like whenever Iommi has any, because it says produced by Robin Black and Black Sabbath, which means Iommi probably had something to do with it too. Whenever Iommi gets his hands on it, it seems like the reverb goes up. But
yeah, that's true.
This album I really grew to appreciate. For me, it's a strong B- C+. It's I like the first side much better. Trashed and Disturbing the Priest, his screams on Disturbing the Priest are just, and the riffing is so fucking awkward and strange, and it they sound drugged out. I mean, big time. It sounds like a drugged out album to me, and or drunk. I don't know. I'm trying to think. My memory's a bit fuzzy, but Bill Ward was saying it was either this album or this album. He doesn't remember playing a single drum beat on it for the whole recording session. And that really kind of put his substance abuse in perspective for me. I've drank a lot in my past, and I've never been so drunk I've not remembered chunks of my life. and I think going in recording an album would be kind of a big deal. But I don't know if it was this album or Heaven and Hell, but that's the status of the rhythm section. It's even with him back on this album. I don't really think much about his playing on this, whereas other albums you're like, holy shit, Bill Ward's still amazing. On this album, it doesn't really stand out. The strength of the songs, there's a lot of good songs on this album. Keep It Warm is a very anticlimactic ending. You are correct there, King, for sure. Digital Bitch is good, but for me, side A is the good stuff. Trashed, Stonehenge, Disturbing the Priest, The Dark, Zero the Hero. That riff, Cannibal Corpse kind of killed it for me, but I can still listen to it and appreciate it for what it is. But again, I haven't spun this album a bunch, but I've spun it enough to, and I find myself grabbing it now, older I get, more than I ever really did, because I'm not as familiar with it, and the more I've spun it, the more I've appreciated it. It's a grower for me. It's a grower album for sure.
That's fair.
But you could tell that they were in dire straits, coming off of 2 amazing Dio albums, and going into this, it just seems like a band that was lost again. They got the rug pulled out from underneath them, and Ian Gillan's a great singer. It seems strange him being in a Black Sabbath, a version of Black Sabbath. It's just weird.
It is. I think he did give it an honest go, and I think he
did a great job, man. He screamed his heart out.
Yeah, but you're right. You listen. This is the man who sung Child in Time, and now he's singing Disturbing the Priest. There is a little disconnect there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it would be the only album he did with them, and so once again, your lineup's unstable, and takes a few years before another album would come out. And King, what album came out next?
It was The Call of the Seven Stars. The Call. This one.
This one. We're in 86 now.
1986. This one for me, I love from the get-go. I love melodic British rock, and that's what this was. Now, you see that Black Sabbath name that we all know, Tony Iommi wanted to call it Tony Iommi. And they said, fuck that. We're putting it out as Black Sabbath featuring Tony Iommi. Everybody jumped ship. We got fucking, what do we got? We got Dave Spitz playing on this.
Yep.
Fucking Dan Spitz's brother. We've got Eric Singer at the time, a hired hand. He was just coming from Lita Ford band maybe then. Yeah. You got Jeff Nichols is sticking around. Geezer Bullard took the high road. He was on down the road. He took the 6-star and the 6th train to the 7-star. And then you got one of the greatest voices of all time. Again, here comes fucking Glenn Hughes. But he's not playing bass. Yeah. He's not fucking playing bass. He's singing. Mm-hmm. And I approached this record. I walked into a store one day and it was laying there. I thought the cover was just so weird. It was just Tony Iommi sitting there. It was poorly put together as an album cover, which wouldn't be the first or last Black Sabbath cover like that. It looked
like he killed John Bon Jovi, took his coat and all of his coke.
Yeah. And he was, I think this was around the time he wasn't Lita Ford he was engaged. They were engaged around this time. So he was living that LA kind of thing. And, people were like, you're Tony Iommi, you're a legend, blah, 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 blah. Yes, he is. But the music does the talking. As a Black Sabbath record, I'm not going to even argue it that it's totally different from a Black Sabbath record, but as a melodic hard rock, British hard rock at that, because I'm going to go with him as the one making it all. This is a fucking phenomenal record for me. I remember Kerrang, Malcolm Dome, I think it was, giving this a perfect rating. I'm a big fan of the Gary Moore Corridors of Power album, which is another one that's got some soul to it and things like that. And I love that record. This is something that reminds me of this. This was a time, this is 1986. I was listening to Obsessed by Cruelty. I was listening to fucking this the same year, Rage for Order, things like that were all happening at the same time. Yeah. And they all worked. This was one of my most played records of that year. And I was definitely in my 18 years old thrash zone, kind of thing. Yeah. And this came on, the clingy, clangy drums of Eric Singer come in for the Kill was on. Glenn Hughes could sing the phone book, that old saying. It was phenomenal. I had seen the No Stranger to Love video by then. I liked the song. It had a very Deep Purple feel to it, which a lot of this record will. And that's why I'm not going to hold it on a Black Sabbath standard, because it's Tony Iommi's solo record. I mean, it's going to go under a Black Sabbath, as we all know it lives that way. But as it just goes on, Turn to Stone, phenomenal up-tempo tune. The 7th star, the Sphinx 7-star. Not only it's a great showcase for Iommi to do what he does, play some great blues licks. And you're into side 2. You got the almost Queen of the Reich almost sounding as far as the riffing of Danger Zone. Go back and listen to Queen of the Reich. They're very similar. That Heart Like a Wheel, again, your Deep Purple, you're that. Glenn Hughes is beautiful. His voice is great. I know he was going through a lot of problems with drugs and things. His voice is great. Then you get Angry Heart again with a Deep Purple touch. Some of that, actually, his voice, and this is weird to say, some of that he reminds me of David Lee Roth at his most melodic singing-ish, if you listen to some of the after the choruses. And then one of my favorite tunes Iommi ever did, so short, so fucking, but so just haunting, In Memory. I love that. Love the vocal to that. The band is decent. Eric Singer's a good drummer. He's by the books drummer on this record especially. I know he could branch out. He did a lot more. You got a guy that's been all over the place, from Cooper to Kiss to everything in between. Glenn Hughes is phenomenal. Iommi is phenomenal. Dave Spitz is the bass player. Jeff Nichols doesn't have a lot to work with. He doesn't really need to. I think he definitely backed off all the evilness of this record. He went for just a straight up hard rock record. I went to see the tour. Wasp opened. Glenn Hughes wasn't there. I said, who the fuck is this singing? It was Ray Gillan. I didn't know who Ray Gillan was at the time. He was okay. The place was 3/4 empty. It was the Baltimore Civic Center. I remember them having a goddamn what the hell was it? What the hell was that? They had a wheel with water going. I was like, just this. It was weird. It just had this water spinning on this wheel, going around and around. And I was like, what is this guy doing? Ray Gillan. Who is this? Where's Glenn Hughes? I was reading my Kerrangs. I found out that, they got in a fight. He got punched in the face. He was a cokehead. They had to get rid of him. I knew they were in trouble. As a Black Sabbath lineup, they were dead and out. Anthrax was also on this tour. They didn't play our show. I remember Anthrax, who shouldn't talk about anybody, but they were being embarrassed to play this, saying this wasn't Black Sabbath. Wasp, Wasp brought 2/3 of the crowd. You could tell those changing of the guard. Yep. Iommi did a great extended solo. It was great. They were good. They were actually, I'll give this credit. Ray Gillen was put on the spot. I think he only came in like 3-4 days before I saw him, and he had to just jump right into it. They were better here than when I saw them on Born Again, believe it or not, having Gillen and Geezer on the same stage, because Tony Iommi was really stepping up and just playing his ass off. As a record, I love this record. I always give it. I've had people, I give this an A. I give it an A. I give it an A. I mean, the only thing, if I had to go something low key, I would probably go the title track is probably my least favorite, but he does a nice lead in there. I really like it. I don't know if I stand alone on this. I've got some friends, especially in the deceased camp, that really like this record too. But I just thought it was a great record for Tony Iommi. I wish he could have put it out as Tony Iommi's solo record. I think he would have got a lot more respect for it. I don't think it would be dogged as hard as it is these days. Production-wise was good. I can't remember who did the production. Was it Jeff Glicksman? I have to go inside this to find it.
I think it's Glicksman, but I won't swear to it.
Okay. Well, he did Paul Stanley's solo album, so he's decent. But I enjoyed it. I still do. It's one I go to all the time. I take in the car. It's a very short record. It seems like it only runs like a little over 30 minutes.
Yeah, Jeff Glicksman.
Yep.
Okay, thank you on that. I liked it. I really do. I do. I think it's a fucking cool record. I think, as anybody that's into guitar, Iommi's my all-time favorite guitarist too. So you get that too. He wrote some simple songs with some nice riffs, and he had a fantastic singer in there who, even at his worst of times, it turns out all these years later, could still sing his ass off.
Yep. Yeah, this one, I love it. I think it's a great album, and I think you've nailed it in saying that if you listen to it expecting a Black Sabbath album, it's not going to rank very high. You're going to come away disappointed. But if you listen to it wanting to hear a really great 80s hard rock album, it's spot on the money. It's great. I have you to thank for getting me into this album. It's one I would have heard it sooner or later, I'm sure, but I had not heard it. Had never got around to checking it out. And it's probably been 20 years ago now, but yeah, you were hounding folks. It's like, dude, you got to listen to that fucking 7 Star album.
He
fuck
did.
the haters.
Check
it out.
The reason why I bought it. It was King.
Yeah, King. Yeah, same here. Yeah, and so when I saw it, when it showed up in a used bin, it's just like, you know what? I've got $6, and King says it's good. I'm going to find out. I'll give it a chance. And I instantly loved it. Yeah. Tony's on his own at this point. Everything else about Black Sabbath is gone. And like you said, it really should have been a Tony Iommi solo record. It would have fixed a lot of the problems and baggage and expectations that, kind of dragged the album down. But, he's got Glenn Hughes. And like you said, yes, Hughes, massive drug problems at the time and could still sing like nobody's business. All of these tracks are just great for what it is. It is an amazing album. And yes, probably favorite track on that 2.5 minutes closing of, In Memory, just, it still haunts me. Oh, damn, that's so fucking good. It's just like, Glenn, quit snorting the stuff and get on stage and sing that, man, because God, that's just amazing.
They didn't even play it live. They didn't even fucking play it live.
Yeah, but it is a fantastic album for what it is. It's just, it's not really a Black Sabbath album, but it has Black Sabbath's name on it, so it's part of their legacy. It's a really great album for what it is, and yeah, it's really emblematic of just how tumultuous things were. Like you said, Hughes didn't even last. He only lasted a few shows on the tour before. Yeah, drugs and egos and fights fucked everything up. And yeah, you're right. Gillen was brought in with almost no warning. Tony was literally like sneaking him into a show here and a practice there for a couple of days before they officially kicked Glenn out, just to give Ray enough time to be like, to see what the hell they were playing and to try to get a feel for it. Yeah, and Glenn was apparently even drugged out as he was like, who the fuck's this guy I keep seeing wandering around? And he's like, he's nobody. Don't worry about it. It's all good.
Everything's fine.
Your ass is canned in 72 hours, and he's going to take over the reins. Which apparently, in hindsight, Glenn has said, I completely understand why they had to do that. I was a mess. Yeah,
he was. I mean, the pictures with him with black eyes and stuff, and he was always saying he didn't want to sing out front. He was never been out front singing without a bass,
Mm.
But he was heavy.
Yeah,
he had that crazy beard. I mean, it was weird. And here's one thing too. I want to tell you guys a little bit of trivia for the "No Stranger to Love" video. if you watch the girl in the video with Tony Iommi, it's the mother from Pet Sematary.
Oh, really?
Movie. The original Pet Sematary movie. That's a little trivia for the next time you play Heavy Metal Jeopardy.
Very cool.
To quote Pet Sematary in regards to this album, sometimes dead is better.
And I want $2 for that lead in there, Marty.
You're welcome. Thank you for setting that up for me. King is we're at a show. You might have been wearing a shirt, and we were talking about it. I said never heard it, and you're like, oh man, you fucking Marty, you got to get this record. Da, da, da. So it took years. I finally got it, and my first reaction to this album is like someone shit in my Wheaties, and then someone did the Malachi Crunch on the cereal bowl.
The Malachi Crunch gets brought up tonight. Crunch. Happy Days references.
Yeah. So for anybody that's not old like us, you probably won't get that reference, but I've listened to this album now a total of 3 times. This week I revisited it because it didn't connect with me. Was it a bad album? No, it wasn't a bad album. It just was not what I was expecting, what I wanted. I kind of came into this as a Black Sabbath record, even though I knew it was a Tony Iommi solo album, and the record labels made him put the Black Sabbath on there. It was a little too in the cock rock sphere at the time when I bought this and listened to it. I just couldn't connect with it. Listening to it this week, I will agree. Glenn Hughes, fantastic singer. I am glad that I'm done with the whole, when I was in the death metal, I bought this when I was very much into death metal all the time. But now I can listen to this with a new ear. I'm looking forward to dissecting it further, but it is a complete different feel from what, the riffs, there's some riffs here and there that kind of cut through. It's you can tell it's Tony Iommi playing, but it's more of a softer approach, more of a soft rock AOR type. You could tell he's relocated to LA. There's just something about that place that does it to bands. I don't know. And why do so many British people end up in LA? I mean, isn't that weird?
The weather.
Is it the weather?
Taxes.
Off the top of my head, I'm going to guess it's the weather and taxes.
Yeah.
Taxes.
But anyway, the jury's out on me on this. I like it a lot better than I did when I bought it. I'm going to keep digging with it. These guys have sized it up perfectly. I really don't have any horse in this race other than I'm going to come back to it. I like it way better than I did when I remember when I got it. If you could have seen my face, I'm like, what the fuck is King talking about? Rock shit.
Heard that one before.
But yeah, Iommi, very much around this time, he's adrift. Stuff is going on. Stories from this time. He randomly ends up in Antigua for a couple of weeks. Or someone's like, "Yeah, going down to Antigua, let's party." Okay, whatever. And then ends up living in a high-end hotel in the UK somewhere for 6 weeks. Who's paying for this? I don't fucking know. Okay. It's a real unsettled time, in Black Sabbath land. But it would only take about a year before another album would come out. So, King, what do we got next?
Oh, here it comes. Eternal Idol. This freaky ass weird statuesque cover. That is weird. You want to put the cover up? You're flipping it on me, Marty. You're showing its ass, man.
The best part.
Yeah, you don't get the ass if you flip the cover on the back. You don't get the ass.
I try every time. Open.
This album, my introduction to this record was I used to talk to Borovoy Kurjan on the phone, blabbermouth guy these days, had Violent Force magazine back in the day. Violent Noise, I'm sorry. We're talking on the phone. He goes, "Have you heard the new Black Sabbath?" I was like, "No, man." He goes, "They're playing a song on the radio right now." I said, "Oh, yeah?" He puts the phone up to the radio. It's Hard Life to Love. He's like, "Yeah, it's pretty commercial, man, but I'm kind of digging it." I said, "Yeah, me too. Let it play. Shut up." I hear the rest of the song out, and I'm like, I got to go get the new fucking Black Sabbath. I wonder if it's in the stores. I go up to the store. They don't have it. Guy says, "Come back Tuesday." I come up Tuesday. It's sitting in the new release bin. There it is. I look at the cover. I'm like, man, this is fucking weird. What am I going to get? And I'm looking at the record, and I see the song titles. I'm like, okay, looks like Black Sabbath. I wonder if it's going to be like 7 Star. I don't even know who the lineup really is yet. I get to it. I investigate. I put it on. It comes blazing on with The Shining, and I'm like, holy shit, this is fucking good. This is real fucking heavy. I see it's still Eric Singer. I hear the vocals. I said, this guy's sort of like a Dio, a little bit not as low end as Dio, but he's definitely can sing. Let's get into this thing. I sit back, I go through it. I'm into Ancient Warrior. I'm hearing those majestic medieval riffing going through it. Hard Life to Love, it follows the one I heard. Very commercial, but in a good way, not bad at all. Glory Ride is inspirational. It's uplifting. It kind of sounds like something maybe that would have been like almost like a hard road back to Never Say Die, kind of, not necessarily the music of it, but the vision of the song. I get some stuff like that. Born to Lose, I'm going right on down the line. Born to Lose is kicking ass. There's some great fucking slide guitar there from Iommi. He's playing, his lead work is phenomenal. Nightmare comes on. This one I'd read about. This was supposed to be the theme song to Nightmare on Elm Street 3. Before they took Dream Warrior, this was the song for Nightmare on Elm Street Dream Warriors. Huh. They didn't end up using it. So I had heard about this song, love the tune, get a little bit of Scarlet Pimpernel. You get that from Iommi, a little acoustic piece. Again, decent, but uncalled for on a record like this, in my mind. Should have put her on 7-star. Lost Forever is phenomenal. One of my favorites. Definitely has this vibe. I'm learning that Tony Martin, this guy, can sing his ass off. He's got great sense of melodies. It's just beautiful. It has a very heaven and hell vibe to it. It's subdued, but it's melodic, but it's heavy. The title track closes it out. Another one, and this is where I get to see where Tony Martin can hold down the fort as the lead vocalist. I went and played it for my friends at the time. The guys in the band, they fucking loved it too. We're Sabbath fanatics to begin with, so anything Tony Iommi's involved with, we're going to give it the hardest of shots to enjoy it. Thought the production was really good. Thought it was very slick. Again, the LA thing, like you were saying, Marty, though I don't think that was all LA on this. I think that Eric Singer did more of a better drumming on this one than the other one. Was it Dave Spitz again on bass on this, or was it Bob Daisley play on some of this?
Bob Daisley is Dave Spitz and Bob Daisley are both listed. Okay,
that's what I thought. Yeah, I mean the bass is fine. Again, it's the bass in Black Sabbath. I really like the record. I don't think I like it as a lot of people have said this is the best Tony Martin record. Through the years I've seen people say. I don't agree with that. I think it's very good. After learning that Tony Martin had to learn these melodies from Ray Gillen, had already put these melodies down pretty much. He had to go note for note for what it was. So he was kind of singing somebody else's kind of patterns, which I'm sure he did a hell of a job. Don't get me wrong. As a debut record for anybody, this is a phenomenal fucking vocal from Tony Martin.
Oh, yeah.
But I just thought that it was a step in the right direction. If it was just going to be Tony Iommi moving forward, it was a step in the direction. I do feel it's a Black Sabbath record. I feel it's much more. It's almost like a 7-star meets a Heaven and Hell for me, because of the tunage on it. I thought the drumming is good. It's not phenomenal. It doesn't stand out to me, but he holds for it. He does a nice, he does some really good fills on the record, especially on some of the like Ancient Warrior, where it needs some kind of like plodding along. He'll find a way to put something in there, because Eric Singer is not a boring drummer. Other than that, I don't like the album cover that much. I think it's pretty lame. I like the title of the album, the Black Sabbath way they wrote it on the record's okay. Yep. The production's good enough. It's a little slick. I could have used Martin Birch here. I think he would have made it a little bit more like classic. But it's a very, very good record. I would give this one a B- for me.
Okay. Yeah, for me, this one, I've been back and forth on this album over the years. When I first heard it, I was like, yeah, this is pretty good, pretty interesting, kind of like it. And then I went through a period where I was real cold on this album. I'd listen to it and just be like, did not connect with it. It's just like, pass. More recently, it's come back around, and it's just like, no, there is good stuff on here. There really is. It's you can tell that, this album. I like Tony Martin as a vocalist. We'll talk about him a lot over these next few albums, I'm sure. But you can tell these songs weren't written with him in mind. It's not his best performance on a Sabbath album. And as you alluded to and mentioned earlier, the album was written and recorded with Ray Gillen singing. He had come in replacing Glenn Hughes when they were in a pinch on tour, and he was going to be the guy. And they recorded his vocals and had the album, and in the studio, it just felt like it wasn't working out, is what I've read. And so all of a sudden, Ray was out, and they had to get a new vocalist and redo the vocals for it. And it's very emblematic of what was going on at this point. It feels like almost every person who was involved in Sabbath when they started working on these songs was out by the time they actually released the album. The whole band, except for Tony, had changed over, and that's a hard way to make an album. That's got to be tough when your personnel is that unstable. But yeah, that said, there are good tracks on here. Once again, the Shining opening track. Damn if Sabbath doesn't always know which track to put right up front to get you in the mood. They really do pick great lead tracks. And it goes into Ancient Warrior. I love that song. It's a really good one in their catalog. After that, there's other good tracks here too. I like Glory Ride. Hard Life to Live is fine. Looking at the tracks on side 2, Lost Forever. Yeah, very good song there. So yeah, it's, in this point, I've come back around, where I do like the album. And I've got to ask you didn't mention, but what do you think of the Ray Gillen version versus the Tony Martin version? Because
I like it. I like it. I'm not a big fan of Ray Gillen though. Ray Gillen's one of those vocalists that can sing his ass off, but has no personality to me. He's one of those kind of guys. There's plenty of them in my world. You could take a Ripper Owens. These guys can sing. They just have no personality. I'd rather hear Bon Scott or Snake or Ozzy Osbourne. It's just they're not a great singer, but they have a personality inside of it. Sure. I just thought it was a guy that came in and they're like, okay, give me the vocal, drop it down, and there it was. I mean, hearing that was on bootleg cassettes for years before they did all these, later on when they put it in this nice double disc and all this shit. I had it and I was like, yeah, it's cool. But by then I'd only known it as the Tony Martin thing, so I took it as a Tony Martin thing. But once I listened to it, I hear it. I hear the Ray Gillen. I hear the differences. I hear what you're saying, how it was more towards his kind of like pronunciations and just his like kind of way. It's a little bit more bluesy than Tony Martin is to me. And I also thought with another thing with like that, when you were saying that you do like the record, I really think a better production and a better producer that could have just tightened it up some, because to be able to just erase the vocals on an album and have somebody come in and just sing another one, that just makes it to me like, I don't know, like just a project more than an album.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're just stitching it together with
Frankenstein.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it is. You're right. If they'd had a stable lineup, and had Tony in the band from the get-go, and had a Martin Birch or a solid producer in there, it probably would have come off as a stronger thing.
Because when you're saying it for you, you say I like these songs, but there's like but something, but you're holding back a little bit, and I think I'm holding back too because I just need to hear it a little bit more like turn into an album instead of a project.
Yeah, that's a fair take on it. So yeah, it's another one of those kind of B- albums for me. I like it, but it's got issues. I gotta say, between the Gillen and Martin versions, this is a case where I think they're both on pretty even footing. I think Martin does have a better voice than Ray Gillen. I don't mind Gillen's vocals, but Tony's a better singer. But on this particular album, again, he wasn't quite in his element just yet. The songs were written with Ray in mind, and so when he does them, they do sound pretty good. I like that version, with all the Ray Gillen takes on it as well. So I can take either version. For a while, there was a stretch where I thought the Gillen version was better. Now I think it's more of a 50-50 split. I like both takes on it. But yeah, the album is definitely, in a way, considering how unstable the lineup was, it's kind of amazing the album got released, that they actually got something put out.
And let's not forget, no tour.
And like you said, with even the previous album, by this point, Sabbath is just they're not a draw anymore. We're in 1987 now. This is Rain in Blood has come out the previous year. You've got Scream Bloody Gore and shit. Black Sabbath is not
dinosaur
a force in heavy metal. Yeah, they're the dinosaur band. They're a lot of folks don't even realize they're still active at this point. I mean, they are very much a relic of the past. And but they are starting with this album, as rough as it was, and as unstable as everything was. They do start to find a new sound here. And moving forward, they have something they can build on from this album moving forward. But before we move forward, Marty, what do you think of Eternal Idol?
The whole Tony Martin era, I was very indifferent to. I kind of checked out with Sabbath after Dio. It's only like I pick these albums up when I find them at a record show. And when I got this, I was indifferent to it. As the last couple of years I've revisited it, it's way better to me, and especially respinning it this week. I mean, I see why Tony picked Tony Martin. He's a very underrated vocalist in the Black Sabbath canon. He's a great singer. And I mean, The Shining, he comes out, he sounds a lot like Ronnie James Dio. And then as the album goes on and then albums afterwards, there's even a little bit of Coverdale in there. I hear a little Coverdale mixed with Ronnie James Dio, but then he takes it up higher than that and does more of his own thing. He's like a conglomeration of three really good singers. And when I've noticed with whenever Tony gets a singer of that caliber in the band, and this album is no exception, the writing gets a little more adventurous. There's still stuff on here that sounds like Sabbath, but again, to me, it sounds like a band that is feeling inspired again. I don't know if that's the case or not. I don't think they fully realized this lineup with Tony Martin singing until the next few albums, but I thought this is a really good start. I mean, again, you're starting from scratch. You've rebuilt your fucking lineup how many times, and you're changing members during recording. Again, it's a very put together kind of like a mad scientist project. Other than a band, hashing these fucking riffs out and writing an album. I mean, at this point, in fact, this pretty much sums it up. You look at the back, the credits, it says The Player, Tony Iommi. And then it says Players, Tony Martin, vocals. And then it goes through. So, I mean, he's put his name above all because he knows this is, at this point, this is his project. I mean, he's the only living member in this band that came from the very beginning.
He's the last man standing.
He's the last man standing. And it's like, this is a good record. I mean, I would maybe rate this a little higher than Born Again. I would give this probably a B. I think the albums that come after it are better, but we'll get to that next.
We'll get to those, yeah. Yeah, and something to follow up on that point, that's a good thing to point out, Marty. At this point, Tony's not only the last man standing, he's a lot older than the guys he's working with.
Yeah.
Yes.
There's a generation gap now where, Tony's, been at this for, 20-ish years by this point.
Yep.
And a lot of these other guys are like, in their early mid 20s, and he's mentioned before that, that was kind of a hard thing to wrap his head around sometimes, that, he'd start to talk about something and they could not relate to it because they hadn't been through it. And, also at the same time, they had sort of jumped straight into a very established band. Even if the band is not at their peak, here, they're still able to say right away, like, hey, 2 years ago I was in high school, now I'm in Black Sabbath. And he's just like, you guys, yeah, you did. That's kind of weird. You didn't earn it the way I did. You didn't, you just had it kind of handed to you. So a lot of oddness with, the interpersonal relationships.
Well, it's a band of guns for hire. I mean, you got Bob Daisley, who was a reject from Ozzy. I don't want to call him a reject, but that's basically how Ozzy treated him. You got Eric Singer, who has been in every band. He's been in all the bands. Lita Ford, who, Tony's diddling at this point, and he goes on to be in Kiss. I mean, it's basically the Tony Iommi experience with a good singer, which is fine. You do what you got to do, But
yep.
Thankfully, it's some good songs on it that make it worth the purchase.
Indeed. Yep. So a couple of years go by, and by 89, you've had some more lineup changes by the time the next album comes out. So King, take us away.
We came back. We came back headless. We came back the Headless Cross.
This is a good album. I like
this. Is a fucking phenomenal album.
It is.
This is the best Tony Martin Black Sabbath record. I don't give a fuck what anybody says. This is the one. I remember going into Sam Goody's, good old Sam Goody's down in Georgetown. And the tape was $12.49. I had $10. I had to stick this motherfucker in my pocket and walk out, man. I had to put it in my pocket and walk out. Me and my buddy Doug Butane, we went to the car. I put it in. It came on. You got the intro, of course, The Gates of Hell. That's pretty lame title, but whatever. Headless Cross came on. Now we know Cozy Powell is playing drums, one of the masters of the stomp beat and everything. You got Neil Murray on bass now. And Tony Martin's come back. He's obviously taken, with Tony Iommi, it's working for Tony Iommi. They've lost the Warner Brothers label. They're on IRS now, working with the Copeland guy. And Headless Cross comes on, and I'm loving this. The guy in the car next to me is like, this is Black Sabbath? This doesn't sound like Black Sabbath. Now, this guy's been out of the loop since Heaven and Hell, probably. He's like, this sounds like Whitesnake, and I'm like, okay. I'm telling him this is British heavy metal, man. I was like, all these bands always interlap. They're going back to Slipping Away. If you go listen to stuff on Burn, you will hear riffs on there that are like from Slipping Away, Mob Rules, used before Mob Rules. Anyway, Devil and Door, the best Tony Martin song ever. One of my absolute favorite Black Sabbath songs ever by anybody, any lineup of that band. What a fucking single. When Death Calls. Yep. When Death Calls, the epic. I mean, this thing is what I want. I think Tony Iommi told Tony Martin, we're Black Sabbath, man. Write some stuff that's spooky, so we're getting back to it. It's not so much, a lot of this other stuff from the album before, Born to Lose, blah, 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 things like that. We're into When Death Calls, and we're killing the spirit world. There's a lot of unique stuff on this record. It's very polished. It's very clean. Iommi's melodies are just hauntingly beautiful throughout. Tony Martin's voice could not be better for me. You got Call of the Wild coming on. I'll be honest, Call of the Wild, when I first started, it reminded me of How Much Love from Vixen. Now, how fucked up is that? I do like the How Much Love song by Ben, but it says it's the same kind of that riff. And I hear that, that again, we're LA in it here. We're having this sound. He does have that. I don't want to call it hair metal because it's so much more than that to, I don't know, I want to say veteran ears, but just if you really listen, you get the Black Moon, which had been the B-side for The Shining on the 12-inch of the Eternal Idol. So it's a remake. The Black Moon was done already once before, and this is a more polished album version of this. And then you get Nightwing, which has got to be one of the best Black Sabbath closers. That one shows you just how good Tony Martin can sing, and Iommi's in there. You've got everything going on this record. I played this record repeatedly over and fucking over. And this is when I was fighting for Sabbath. I had people like, man, fuck Black Sabbath. That shit sucks, man. Fuck these dudes. They're dead, dude. Go give me War Pigs. Fuck this. Give me Heaven and Hell. I'm like, dude, this record is fucking great. It's great. No, it's not. It sucks. I went and stood in line. It was a couple of us. We went up to the Tyson's Corners Mall to get tickets for this tour. They actually toured on this record for a little while. It was them, Kingdom Come, and Silent Rage. Okay, so you see what the crowd they're going for is. There's no Tony Iommi and Cozy Powell and Neil Murray. These guys are old timers, and Tony Martin's a little younger, but he's fitting in because he's British. And so you get the record going. I get these fucking tickets. We're in line. There's 100 people in this line. I'm like, man, Black Sabbath tickets, man, all these people. And I'm like, well, fuck. So I pull a fast one. I go in the line. I say, look, man, what are you all doing? What's the line to sign the paper to get record tickets in the morning? We're basically spending the night at this department store. Hex is what it was called. And I'm like, man, we're so late. We're going to get shitty seats. So I acted like I'd been there all day. And I pulled out a paper with my name already on it. I'm like, this is the list. You guys are after me. So everybody in this line thought this is what it was. Okay. So all of a sudden we went to first, and Mark from Deceased was laughing, and all these people. Well, it turned out the next morning we stayed all night. We literally sat outside all night. We did this many times. The morning comes, we're the only motherfuckers getting Black Sabbath tickets. Everybody's in line to see New Order. Nope, nobody wants to see Black Sabbath. We get second row center. And I'm like, oh my God, this is killer. Okay, so it's at the Meriwether Post Pavilion, which is where they do the M3 shows now in Maryland. We go there. There's less than 1,000 people in the whole place. This is like a 7,000 to 10,000 seater, including the lawn. There isn't 1,000 people in this entire place. I go with my girlfriend, who's 9 months pregnant with my son at the time. I'm sitting with her and Mark and some of our other Deceased guys. they come out. Well, first off, Silent Rage doesn't even show. Fucking here comes Kingdom Come. They're not bad. They're on that second album by now. They're not bad. It's okay. And I'm like, where the fuck is everybody at this show? You see friends that got tickets later on that were like 27th row. They're now third row because you're just moving up because nobody cares. I'm like, man, there's no way this tour is going to survive. You know, they're a fucking joke to the world. Nobody cares about this record. It's out. There's a video on MTV. You know, they're trying, but nobody cares about Black Sabbath at this point. So they play. They're phenomenal. I remember I bootlegged it. I taped the show. I'm singing to my girlfriend's belly with my son. I'm singing the songs. I actually taped it. Still have the tape to this day of the show. I would think I looked the other day just to look for this thing we're doing tonight. I think within 10 days the tour was canceled. They were done. They were home, and that was the end of the album. It was a flop as far as record sales and all that. In America, it was a total flop. Yep. I loved it. I loved the production. I play this all the time. I got a cassette of it a few months ago, put it in my car when I was driving my old car with a cassette player in it. And I'm just sitting there singing every song. Tony Martin, The Kill in the Spirit World, when he doubles the voice after that. I can't do it, of course. He does part. Me and Les used to sit there and sing that fucking horribly as I am right now. But we love this fucking record. I do love this record. And the weirdest thing was it's probably, 2021, probably about 2005. I remember the Black Sabbath fan club had a fucking vote, your favorite Black Sabbath record. This was number 2. This got voted number 2 Black Sabbath record of everything. You're going on from day one. Paranoid was 1. This was 2. This beat fucking Heaven and Hell that year when they did this thing. And that freaked me out. And you couldn't tell anybody Tony Martin Sabbath was good for years. We're going to keep going with this. But, you know, when I'm 1989, I mean, it wasn't until the 2000s, maybe late 2000s, where Tony Martin even got a break. Now people are like discovering how great and magical it all was. It was magical to me. And I'm thankful that I heard it in my own way when it came out, because I've loved it even longer. You know, I've had the chance to go through this record. Album covers, it's almost like, oh, it's Black Sabbath, put a cross there, that's all. On the artwork. Produced by Iommi and Cozy Powell. Cozy Powell was a great addition to the band. He could, he knew how to carry the beat, and he could keep it good. And Neil Murray was fine too. And on tour, that they were great live. Tony Martin sang all the old Sabbath good. He sounded good on the Dio. He sounded good on the Ozzy. He could do both. You know, and I never thought Dio was that great on the Ozzy stuff. First off, he didn't want to sing it. First off, he didn't want to sing it. He didn't want to be there. Though he did a mean as hell Black Sabbath, and I always liked his War Pigs, which he had done in his Elf days. But this record for me, I'm gonna, in my mind right here, this is a perfect record for me. I'm giving it an A+. I'm going 100 out of 100 for me. This is my favorite Tony Martin record. This is one of my favorite Sabbath records. It has a lot of emotions in my heart. I love the melodies. I love the sense of the singing around Iommi's voice. I think it all works good. I think Neil Murray was the first real, true professional bass player they'd had since Geezer that really knew how to lock in with the drums to give him that low end, which is essential in a Black Sabbath sound for me, and let Tony Iommi just do what he does. And Tony Martin being the amateur of the bunch, he was phenomenal. And this is one of the greatest vocal albums that I've ever heard. I think Tony Martin is phenomenal on this record.
He is. Totally.
And I'm not going to forget Jeff Nichols, because he contributed a lot to the songwriting when I heard reading books later on and stuff. So he's still there through all this. Jeff Nichols is still doing all the keyboards.
Yep. He's still around with Tony. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm a Headless Cross fanatic.
Very cool. I agree with a lot of what you said there. By this point, things were stabilizing at least a little bit in Iommi's life. I think by this point he was starting to get some of the distractions and shit that had been going on with management and taxes and whatever was starting to clear away. He had a good vocalist, that was now on board through the whole thing. And like you said, Tony Martin was encouraged, to contribute to the songwriting, and did, and really dove into it. And the addition of Cozy Powell, I think, was a very big deal too. Not just because of the talent, but it gave Tony Iommi someone to kind of bond with again. It's someone that was kind of back on his age and maturity level a little bit. Someone who'd been there through some of the same kind of shit that he had. And yeah, when I've read Tony talk about this area, he was very happy again. It's kind of like, yeah, we dealt with some weird shit for quite a while, and it's been kind of adrift for a while, but now it actually is feeling like there's a band again. That there is a really good unit here that he's enjoying working with again, and it shows in the songwriting. I agree that Tony Martin sounds fantastic on this. He's now very comfortable and has it down really well. And yeah, it's a really good set of songs. Headless Cross is good. Devil and Daughter, is great. It's got a great vocal melody to it. Kill in the Spirit World, it just gets stuck in your head really easily. For me, the cut has always been Nightwing, though. Yeah, just amazing closer. Tony sings the hell out of that song. And yeah, it's very solid, start to finish. I don't know if it's the best Tony Martin album. It's my favorite Tony Martin album. There's one that maybe's better that we'll talk about soon, but it's definitely way up there. And you're absolutely right. Cannot emphasize enough how much people did not give two wags of a dog's tail about this album. I remember seeing it. It immediately went in used bins and sale bins, and nobody would touch it. I would say, even just, record shows and stuff, people would have it laying out there like, hey, Black Sabbath album. And people would look and just like, shit, I don't want that damn album. Nobody cared about this band at this point. Nobody cared about this album at this point. And again, I'm emphasizing that and echoing what you said, King, because for a lot of viewers, if they're younger, that may seem very weird because today Black Sabbath is the definition of heavy metal, and they're heralded as the godfathers of everything. And it's not obvious that, there was a period around this album where everybody, they were a joke to most people. Like you said, people couldn't have cared less. And it's a real shame because, they had taken, Eternal Idol, for all its issues. There was something they built on there, and now that they had a more stable unit and everybody's spirits were a little higher, they were able to really take that and start to run with it. And it shows with having a really good, really tight album here. Marty, what do you think of this one?
I don't even own this album, and it's not because I don't like it. It's because it hasn't turned up. And with these records, I kind of want to get them on vinyl, and only way to do that is through record shows here in town. And it's a really great album, and revisiting it again, like I said, I was very indifferent to the Tony Martin era, and it's been an eye-opening experience coming back and rediscovering this stuff because like I said, he's completely underrated. And this album, where Eternal Idol may have stumbled, this album has got it figured out. It's great. The songs are all good. His performance is stellar. Cozy Powell on drums, he's a great fit. It's just a great album. I'm not going to say anything any more eloquently than you guys have. So, and going into the next album, it shows, I think, Tony Martin's starting to push his range into those higher levels a lot more constant. Yes. Which I think ultimately contributed to ruining his voice. But anyway, we'll get to that when we get to that. But King, what's next?
Oh, then we went to what one guy called Tire, but we all know it as Tear. This guy said, man, you got the new Black Sabbath Tire. I'm like, you got a tire out? What the fuck? I was like, oh, you mean Tear? This one came to me. I was ordering overseas, trying to get vinyl at the time. This is the time when vinyl was dying out. And I ordered it, and I got it. It came in on picture disc first for me. I ordered a picture disc and the regular vinyl. Same time. The picture disc came in first. I was playing it off picture disc when it all started. Needle hit the picture disc, and on Monday came on. I was blown away. You talk about a heavy drum production. This fucking record, they were like, this was up there in a different vibe than Creatures of the Night, but this fucking drum mix on this record, Cozy Powell said, let me touch a few more knobs this time, Tony. So, it was the same guys came in. We're going to do the same thing again. Like I loved the way his voice came in. And on Monday, what, again, as you say, every time we talk about the opener, They knew how to pick the fucking opener, man.
Yep.
This tune was
They kill it every
unbelievable.
time.
Banged right into an up-tempo Lawmaker, which I love too. He's evil and mysterious. You know, I loved it. I mean, they just couldn't go bad. Jerusalem was obviously, to me, what should have been the single. I like the tune. I don't like it as much as the first two. It's a little simplified. You know, the Lawmaker was simplified, but it was like intense. This one was a little bit more like, you know, dun 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 dun. You know, you hear something like that, which almost sounded like Holy Diver. Yeah. If you go back to listen to that melody, which is odd. But anyway, the Sabbath Stones to close out that side. Now that song, and if you go back and listen to it, it's The Wizard. It's Black Sabbath, The Wizard. It's the same melody, everything. Dun, 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 dun. It's it. It just goes plodding along. Cozy Powell's learning the Sabbath thump. He's got it down really well on this one. The big finale on that jam to finish out the side is just so unbelievable. When Tony Martin's just soaring and Tony Iommi's soaring at the same time, and Cozy's just flying around and Neil's just flying. It's amazing. The Sabbath Stones is one of their best tunes. I love it for this record. Probably Anno Mundi's my favorite. I would say that's my second favorite tune on the record. Side 2, you get the battle. You get the Battle of Tyr. Again, you know, these things they do where they're just kind of Black Sabbath's going to do this forever. I feel like they're going to put these pieces on there. You're just like, okay, can we get to the next fucking song? Odin's Court was kind of weird too. You know, it's kind of just a little bit to that, and then you're into Valhalla, which kind of Glory Ride-ish has that kind of like we're going to ride the stars forever, and here we come. And you know, I think this is the album where Tony Iommi said, "Hey, back off on the Satan shit a little bit." And he took him down all this, like, you know, kind of Nordic kind of shit on this thing.
Which is
then there's Feels Good to Me. Then there's Feels Good to Me, which really should read, please do a ballot so we can put it on MTV.
Yeah.
I like the tune. It's a good jam. It doesn't fit on this record at all. Musically, it's a good tune. It doesn't fit on this album at all compared to the rest of the topics and the vibe of the record. It's very good, almost Scorpions-ish. In its way, it's a heavy metal ballad. They put it on MTV. They made a stupid video. The song was a flop, but I like the song. Great lead. I prefer this version on the album because it's extended lead, which is Tony Iommi's piece for the record. The single shortens it a lot. You got Heaven in Black, which is a good closer, but for me, not a great closer. This Headless Cross, as I said, was a perfect record for me. This one was a step down because a couple of the songs just didn't do it. A couple of them are so unbelievable. Anno Mundi, the Sabbath Stones for sure. I really like the Lawmaker. And the other ones are good. There's nothing bad. I mean, we're talking Tony Martin Sabbath here up to this point. There's nothing bad, but I just don't find it in league for me with Headless Cross. Production was outrageous drum-wise, as I said. The guitars were great. The whole band sounds huge. It sounds like they're on a mountain playing this shit, like they're above us all, and you're just in some fucking great big outdoor world, and you're like this giant fucking noise coming at you. Again, I think they did a few shows in America on this. I think a couple shows with Kicks, and maybe I can't remember. Was it Tiamat on this one? I don't know. I don't think it was. I don't think that was yet, but there was some. It was weird. They only played a few shows in America. They never got to me. I wanted to see them up here in Pennsylvania. I was living in Virginia at the time. They never got to me. This record for me, I'm gonna go C+. I'm gonna go C+. I love half of it so much, and the other ones I like, but I just don't like them in league. I wish there was more intensity, which I find on Headless Cross.
Yeah. This one. As you go through the track list, I think this one becomes a tale of two sides. That A side is damn good. And from right away off the bat from with Anno Mundi, and all of those tracks are just really good. Sabbath is in the zone on the first side, but they do kind of lose the plot as you go through side B a bit. It's not that any of the songs stink or anything, but it just doesn't quite hold up. You get halfway through the album and you're just thinking, this is just crazy good. And by the time you get to the end, it's like, well, okay, it's still very good, but it did lose some points getting through that B side.
Don't you think that the side B, like the way they put the order in a row between the Battle of Tyr, the Odin's Court, and Valhalla in a row, I would think for me that's like three, probably the worst part of the record, and it's all in a row. It's almost like like if they'd have separated it more, I probably would have gone up to a B plus on it. Do you agree with like the arrangement of the song, the order of the album?
Yeah, that the middle right there is where, after the Sabbath songs, is where my interest starts to wander a bit, for sure. The album sounds amazing. I really like the production on it. Like you said, they sound massive again. Again, those past couple of albums, probably would have benefited from a little louder sounds, something a little more punch, a little more dynamic to it. And they've got that sound back on this album. It's the first time in ages that the lineup has been stable between two albums. That everybody's back on board for another round, and it shows. That they're really tight. They're working together well. They're writing good material. So yeah, everything clicks pretty well here. It's just that, as you go through the whole album, some of the tracks slide a little bit. Try to think what else there is to say about those. This one, at times, it has been my favorite of the Tony Martin albums. He sounds really good on this material. The good songs are just amazing.
Yeah, they make it better.
Yeah, but there are times too where, if I take a step back and I look at the entire album and I don't focus on just the tracks that I love, then I'm sort of like, I can't. I gotta knock that one down a little bit. It is not amazing start to finish. And you're right. It's weird lyrically, to hear Sabbath go off on this whole, Viking metal before Viking metal was a thing kind of kick. But it was that, like you noted with Headless Cross. I only had told Martin, you write some lyrics. And reportedly Martin had figured, it's Black Sabbath. I'm supposed to write about, demons and evil stuff. And he was asked, he's like, it's okay to ratchet that down a little bit. You don't have to go in that direction. And so he's like, and he kind of took it as meaning like, okay, I'll do something completely different. And he came up with all this, shit about, Norse mythology. And Naomi was kind of like, okay. Okay, I guess I can work with it. Tony described it as like, it was really hard to wrap my head around it because I didn't see that coming. Martin brought it in and it sounded good and it worked, but it was just like, it was kind of a real head scratcher for him. And it does feel odd to have Black Sabbath go in this different lyrical direction, but they did a good job with it. It works. I can't fault them for it. So yeah, it's a great sounding album. It's got some great songs on it. It just, it loses me a little bit by the time you make it to the end. Grade, I would give this one at least a B. I think the good material is strong enough that it does bolster the album up a bit. So yeah, I'm going to go B on this one. I think it's a solid B. There have been times I might grade it as high as B plus, but these days I'm comfortable just giving it a good old solid B.
Before we go to Marty, what do you think of? Have you heard Tony Martin's solo version of Jerusalem from his debut "Back Where I Belong" solo album?
No, I don't think I have.
He redoes Jerusalem in a more. I don't know if have you ever heard his solo album, pieces of it or any of it of the debut he did years ago? How about
I don't
you, Marty?
think so. If I have, I've long forgotten it.
Nope.
But no, I don't think I've checked it.
Have you heard it, Marty? His debut solo album?
No, I have not.
He does Jerusalem on there. The record is some of the record's kind of like the Eagles. He's very like the Eagles on there. Some of it. There's some good stuff that's kind of like rainbowy, like Joe Lynn Turner rainbowy kind of stuff too. But you should listen to his version of Jerusalem. He really makes it. He really commercializes it a lot, and it's kind of weird to hear it that way. But it's a decent record. It's not a great record, but it's good to hear him sing outside of the Sabbath world on this. He's done a few solo albums since. They've all been decent. I don't think anything's been a classic from him, but you should listen to that. It's on the debut. It's a hard one to come across unless you just go to YouTube and check out anybody listening to us now. Tony Martin, Jerusalem, Back Where I Belong. It's just for the the collector or just to hear it all kind of guy. But I thought it was okay. Yeah, the title track sounds like the Eagles, man.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. And just as a quick throwback to something you recommended last week, that those sort of outtake different versions from the Technical Ecstasy box, check those out this week, like you recommended. And that's really interesting sounding stuff. Some of the songs are very cool.
I need to do it too. I haven't.
Yeah, Marty, you're gonna love it, buddy.
Yeah, I went over to the local record store and they do have the thing. It's like $60. It's like, I don't know if I feel good about paying $60 for a 4 CD set of Technical Ecstasy, but it really is interesting sounding. If it will show up used or
come out like that, like change it that way.
Yeah. If it will go on sale or show up used or something, I would pick that up because it was a really good listen. Thanks for recommending that. But back to back to the Tire album. Marty, what do you think of Tire?
The old spare tire. For the longest time, I this is another one I don't own. I've been meaning to get it because for the longest time it was my favorite Martin era album for the fact that in my brain I resigned the fact that it was Black Sabbath doing power metal. Because I thought Martin's vocal range, he kept it up there. He kept it up in the higher register a lot on this record. But listening back to it again this week a couple times, it isn't really power metal. It still sounds like Martin era Black Sabbath. It is way better than Eternal Idol. It is not as good as Headless Cross. It is not. But still, it's a solid record. Martin sounds amazing. He sounds really, really great. And it is really strange to go to the Viking concepts lyrically, but what are you going to do? The guy's trying to do his own thing, and it's a great record. There really isn't. I even love the cover. I love the cover art of it.
I like that. Yeah, I agree with you on that. I didn't even talk about that. I like that too.
Yep. It's cool. Like they actually tried on this. They had a concept behind the album. It wasn't someone at the record label saying, here, put this old stone cross on it. It's good. Great record. And you guys, like I said, you guys have nailed it. I'm just gonna nod politely and say, yeah.
Are we stealing all the good quotes before it gets to you, Marty? You want to go first this time?
No. It's all good. Like I said, I've got all the Ozzy stuff. I got all the Dio stuff, and I'm still filling in holes in my collection. So I don't have the years of passion behind these records that you guys do. I just don't. And I'm getting them and I'm liking them. I've listened to everything this week that I don't have, and some of it I really liked. Some of it, we'll get to that.
Fair. We still got a few to go. Yeah. We're not done. And so, King, where do we go after Tier? So we got this new lineup, Cozy and Tony Martin, everyone. They're doing really good. What happens next?
They said, man, we can't even play in America with kicks. We can't get 10 people to come to a show. What the fuck is Ronnie James Dio up to these days?
Who's this guy, King Fowley?
Motherfucker back. And Cozy Pounce, I'd rather fucking crash on my horse and break my fucking leg than fucking jam with Dio again. That's what I've heard from the grapevine, though they've tried to, lay that down a little bit different over time. So they came back with this, and I've argued this. This is the stupidest album cover ever in my opinion. I hate this album cover. I just don't like it. Whatever. Mike Smith was working at the Tower at the time. He said, man, I got the advance of the new Black Sabbath. Now, we had heard the Time Machine single from the Wayne's World soundtrack, which had Dio. That was the return of Dio. He's come back. And we're like, oh, man, they're like, and it's the Mob Rules lineup is what it is, okay? We're like, holy shit, okay. He brings the cassette to band practice. We don't even practice that night. We put this fucking tape on, and we fucking start jamming. Computer God, the lead-off track. I've seen this title on my Geezer Butler band live tapes that a friend of mine sent me. Geezer had done some live stuff, and it was a track on there called Computer God. I'm like, are they doing the Geezer Butler solo thing here? I hear it, and I'm like, this ain't the same tune. Maybe some of it's it, and I'm trying to figure it out while we're hearing it for the first time in a car. We're listening on a car stereo to an advanced dub that they send out to the press. They play in the stereo at Tower Records. Mike just took it home. Computer God comes on. It's fucking Black Sabbath with Dio. He sounds great. Vinny doesn't sound bad. The production's not bad. It's a little more, I don't want to say modern for the time, but it's
a very modern sound. Yeah.
Yeah, it's definitely not what I want to hear as far as I want Martin Birch back is what I want. The tune is cool. After All the Dead comes on, it's the heavy 2 tune, on the record. It's very heavy. Now I'd heard this came later, but just to intertwining as I go, I later heard that they actually recorded this album once, and the record company, which they went back to Warner Brothers. Originally, I thought Warner Brothers was involved, but it's saying here EMI, IRS. I don't know. I thought that Warner Brothers was involved in some way. Maybe there is some kind of like major label thing that's switched again since things. I know they went to Rhino and all that. But anyway, I heard they recorded this once and they rejected the record as saying it was too wimpy.
Huh.
I've heard there's a version of this that's too wimpy. I don't hear it on these first two songs. TV Crimes came on is one of my favorites. I love this. The damn dumbass video they did later on with that goddamn TV. Doesn't matter. Sabbath isn't about their videos. The tune kicks ass.
Yeah.
I love the ripping lead. You get to hear Tony Iommi just turn it up and go. Letters from Earth is good. I'm starting to sense this plod to them, though. That's not my favorite thing, but they're just getting locked into this one vibe and it's just swing and they're staying with it. And I want it to branch out. I want it to have different vibes. I want it to be dynamic throughout the song. I like the tune. I don't love the tune. Same thing goes for Master of Insanity. I like it. I like the melodies. It's cool. But I'm like, it's not in league with Heaven and Hell or Mob Rules at this point for me. I'm enjoying it. Don't get me wrong. It's still Dio Sabbath is better than most anybody else's anything.
Sure.
You know, and then Time Machine, I'd heard this was a little bit more of a little bit edgier version. I almost think the Time Machine they used in Wayne's World was from that wimpy version of the record that's supposedly out there. This is a little heavier. Sins of the Father, again, we're back to that plot. You get that one riff of Iommi. It's like they took these riff tapes, and I know this later on because I got this 6 CDR set where they just all these demos, and it's like he takes a riff and they just start like, okay, Vinny, play this, and then they kind of sit there, you know. And another thing, I got to be honest, Dio sounds great. I am not really digging all of his lyrics on this one.
No,
it's sort of turning a little bit for me. Too Late is one of my favorites. That one's got the dynamics I need. I think the highlight of this record is the next tune, the next to last tune. I feel like it's a Dio solo sounding though, more so than
I was
Sabbath.
going to say this sounds like middle era Dio solo.
Yes, I really like the I really like that. Buried Alive, classic closer with that Iommi riff that just gets you. It's again though, the sludge is taking over. It's too much, but it seems like a lot of songs are in that one-dimensional vibe. It's staying
Zero
there.
the Hero. It's Zero the Hero rewritten.
Yes, and it's like it's like when it's 6 minutes and 12 seconds, and you at the end you don't really feel any changes. It may pick up tempo or just change key for a minute on the solo sections. But I'm like, when it was said and done, I'm like, wow, that was fucking heavy. But it's not. Immediately, I remember saying it's not Heaven and Hell or Mob Rules. And I think everybody in the car agreed that it was still good. Don't get me wrong. And then I went out, and of course, like being a Sabbath freak I am, I get the record on vinyl, which was hard to get at the time. Again, vinyl wasn't around a lot. I did pick it up immediately on import. And then you get the 12 inches and everything of these records, these B-sides. And then I heard that Letters from Earth B-side, which is a totally different riff that's not even on the album. And it's better. And Dio is heavy as fuck on this. You know, he's like, I just want to rip the heart out of you. I don't know if you guys have ever heard that or anybody that's listening, but that Letters from Earth B-side is a totally different middle section than the album. And I like it better. I think it's more intense. But I mean, if you go through this record, Dio was in an angry place for sure. I'll smash your face in with a smile. It was it was nothing like, the rainbows were gone for the most part, and so was the satanic dirge of it all. I don't know if they were going into this futuristic thing. I guess Computer God kind of is where the artwork comes from. Again, I don't like that. Production is good. It's not great. Wasn't it the guy that Mac? Yeah, it was Mac doing it. The tour came. They played with Prong at a medium-sized place in D.C. It was packed. Dio had his fans. Sabbath had theirs. They said, oh, my God, Sabbath's back with a real singer. It's somebody we've heard of. Geezer's, fucking back. Let's go see this. Saw the concert. They were fantastic in concert. They played a majority of what they did the rest of the careers when Dio was in the front of the band. As a whole record, it's kind of like, I don't know if I want to say it's kind of like Born Again to me because it's not. TV Crimes, Too Late are probably my favorites. Computer God too. 4. This to me, I'll give it 6 out of 10 tunes. Really do it for me on here. I'll give them 1 or 2 of the sludge ones because that's all I want on an album. I don't want 5 or 6 of those. I'm gonna give it a C. It's a C for me. It's a good record. It's not a great record for a comeback after all this time, and especially what they just did with Black Sabbath Tear. It would have been cool to hear some of that styling with Dio singing it.
Yeah.
It's more of a heavy rock record to me than a heavy metal record to me. It's got a lot of that. Vinny Appice doesn't do it for me on drums on this record either. I mean, like I said, Mob Rules, he was in his own zone on that record. It just goes for more of this, like, I don't know if it was a sign of the times, and here comes I Hate God, and here's the Melvins and all that. I know Sabbath wasn't watching those charts, but it just seemed like they were kind of grunging it a little bit. Is that the word I'm looking for?
I know what you're trying to get at. Yeah.
It seemed different than it didn't have the majesticness. It didn't have the melody. It didn't have the intensity of the first time around for me. It was still cool, but it wasn't. Those two were 110 for Mob Rules, 100 for Heaven and Hell, 79 for this one for me.
These riffs,
so that just shows you.
Were more like a blunt object. I mean, it was heavy.
Mm-hmm.
It was like I said, this sounds like a middle era Dio album to me, with some Sabbath riffs, and they don't really like Heaven and Hell and Mob Rules. There's a lot of complexity to those harmonies. There's a lot of feeling, a lot of passion. There's only one real feeling on this whole album. It's the same over and over and over and over again. King, you sized it up perfectly by saying it's the same voice. Every song has the same, tempo, same feel to it. I would agree with you on the songs you like of being the best on the album. I do like it. I listened to this the other day too, and I enjoy it. Dio sounds great. Everything sounds great. It's just the songs are very lackluster. Other than being heavy, it seems like they're all gears are moving again with Martin, and he comes back after Dio leaves again. But it's like this is a stopgap. It's like, oh, we're gonna see if we can make some money here. Let's get these other two guys in here, and this is a cash record. I think if they spent a little more time composing the songs on these, that it could have been a much better record. There's a lot of power on it. There's a lot of good songs, but they're not great songs. They're just C plus is a fair assessment, I think. Good job. Okay. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut in front of you, Alan.
Oh no, that's fine. That's absolutely fine. I'm a little higher on this album than y'all are. Is it in the same league as Mob Rules or Heaven and Hells? No, absolutely not. I still like it quite a bit. It's not just that Ronnie came back; it's the entire Mob Rules lineup back together. And it was a big hype. Sabbath was back, and again, for a lot of folks, they literally thought like they were back together for the first time in almost 10 years. This whole Martin era is just completely, sort of almost whitewashed out of their history. It's so weird that people ignored it so much.
He hid it. He was hiding it a lot. Tony Iommi would not talk about it in interviews or anything.
Yeah. I mean, even as you go forward through time, a lot of the IRS albums, they don't get reissued, and there's management really pushing to keep those albums from getting reissued at times. That they don't want those things out there with the Black Sabbath name. That they want it to just be, the same handful of, Ozzy's greatest hits, and the Dio stuff, okay too. But there's obviously this did generate a lot of hype for him, and let's face it, they probably needed a boost by then because they had been making some very good albums, with the Martin Powell lineup, but it was not getting them anywhere. Just sad but true. That was the fact of the matter at the time. Like King said, they were playing places and people are showing up to see the opening band more than they're showing up to see Sabbath. And yeah, it's a shame, but that's where they were at as a unit. And things worked out where Ronnie was willing to come back in, and Geezer was willing to come back in. And all of a sudden you've got the lineup from one of your strongest albums back together. And yeah, that's going to generate hype. That's going to generate sales. That's going to be a big shot in the arm, for everything about the band. It's going to raise your visibility back up where it hasn't been for almost a decade at this point. But yeah, you got to deliver something. And I like this album. It's a little bit of a sentimental favorite. I remember I bought this album on my birthday for myself, as just a birthday present to me. It had come out a couple of months earlier, and TV Crimes, I had been the video on Headbangers Ball. Really liked the tune, and it just took a while before I was, out of the sticks and into a, city big enough to have a record store that had it. And the way you've all described it's exactly right. It's extremely heavy. It's very angry sounding. And I think, some of that's reflective of the times. And I'm guessing some of that was, a nod to trying to sound more like what people were going to expect. Nobody had heard these Tony Martin albums. And so if they had, it'd been really interesting to see what they would have done with Ronnie singing on that kind of material. But if they had done that, it probably would have backfired spectacularly in terms of, label and management and tours and stuff. I don't know if people could have accepted it. It's sad, but the fact of the matter is, with that lineup back together, there was an expectation of what that should sound like. And so they kind of, they tried to go back to, that, again, a louder, nastier, heavier sound that they had around Mob Rules. But this album, it's, it's very heavy. Marta, I think you said it's like a blunt instrument, and it kind of is over and over. I like a lot of the songs, but I will readily admit, you guys are right that they're a little too repetitive. They're a little too samey at times. Computer God is a good heavy opener. After All has a little bit more of that atmosphere, with Ronnie is ejecting a little bit there. TV Crimes,
that's one of the, After All is one of the sludge ones I can take because it has dynamics within it.
Yes, it does. TV Crimes picks up the pace. That's the headbanging tune here. And I like the other ones. Letters from Earth. It's slow, good, heavy. Master of Insanity, that one, it's starting to feel a little bit too much like some of the other tracks. Time Machine at least breaks things up a little bit. It's not my favorite song, but it's a little more up-tempo, enough to break up the dirge.
Ever heard Tony Martin sing Time Machine live? He does a good job on it.
Mm-mm.
Cool. Yeah. What else have we got? Sins of the Father. It's another good one, but it is another slow, sludgy one. It would stand out more if they hadn't already had 3 or 4 songs like it by this point. I agree. The song on this is I. That is a monster of a song.
That's the best song.
It's heavy, it's sludgy, it's angry, but it also has that Ronnie, sense of majesty and grandeur at the same time. It works great. And Buried Alive is a really nice closer for it too. So if you took out just a couple of those, same-ish sludgy tracks, and it's not that I don't like any of them, but there are just a few too many tracks that are similar.
You should go, if you haven't heard that Letters from Earth with a different middle section, you should. It's got the middle section is way cooler than the one they used on the album. That riff is so heavy.
Yeah, I honestly can't remember if I've got that or not. I know I've got, like, you mentioned, some like, the Geezer, demos and stuff from that time. I've got some of those too, and I haven't played them in ages. So
Go to YouTube and just, on this CD here, it just says Letters from Earth B-side version. That's what it says.
Yeah,
and, that's the bonus for this double disc they put out. Just go, you'll find on YouTube. That middle part is so cool. And one thing I wanted to say real quick, when I saw this tour, this was pretty funny. So they're getting ready to do, I comes in with the wah-wah pedal. Wow, 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 wow. So Tony Iommi gets ready to start playing this. He walks up. He goes to the side of the stage. There is a roadie there, no shit, holding up a silver platter of cocaine. Okay? I watched this 8th row at the fucking show in D.C., Constitution Hall. Goes off the stage. He does some toot. Does his business, comes back out. He goes to start. Wow, 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 wow. I yell as loud as I am. Tony Iommi's God. He stops. He looks at me. He goes, he sniffs, and he goes at me like this. And then he starts playing the song, and I just fucking lost my mind, dude. Lost my fucking mind. I was like, Tony Iommi's God. And he just stops, and that fucking wow, 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 wow. I had to bring that up while we were here.
That's awesome.
Absolutely. That's a great story. Yeah. So for me, I usually rank this one as like a B+ album. And again, I know that's higher than a lot of people do, but it's just one I like to go back to a lot, despite some of the tracks being a little too samey, despite it's not the same as the earlier Dio albums. I don't know. I don't really compare it to the other two. I think this is its own thing.
I enjoy it for some reason. I just do. I agree, though. It's definitely a record to shake the foundations of your house. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, it really is.
It's built to kill. It's built to kill.
And it's not bad. I put it on. I like it. I do. I like it. But, you start putting more of a critical ear to it, and you're like, realize, man, there's not a lot of change in these songs.
There's not.
They're
No.
all kind of the same, pummeling kind of crawl to them. Which
very much
they kind of continue with when they get back together. I mean, we'll get there.
We'll get there. We're getting there. But okay, so Superstar lineup back together. They're getting press. They're getting promotion. They're getting hype. They're selling records again. What happens next, King?
Ozzy Osbourne fucking wants them to fucking do a show and fucking open for him. And Dio says, fuck that fucking piece of shit. That fucking stoner piece of shit. Whatever the fuck he said. He was
I don't open for Ozzy. Ozzy can open for me.
That's it is. He's done. So they lose Dio a second time, and he takes Vinny with him. Yep. So what do we do? Let's go back to what we were doing before all this. Let's get Tony Martin back. Well, what about
that had Ozzy? To be an awkward fucking conversation.
Hi, Tony, what you been up
to? Hey, Tony, how's it going, man? What you doing?
Yeah, if you read the books, Tony Martin was waiting for the call. He really was.
Yeah.
He was waiting for the call. And Ozzy Powell was still, I guess, down and out for the moment. So they brought in Bobby Rondinelli from the Rainbow fame, and they put this thing out. Cross Purpose went back to the IRS, got dropped from the major, whatever it was. We never figured out if it was Warner Brothers, IRS, or EMI, or Rhino, or all the above. But they went back to this record. I got this record the day it came out. I was so happy to see Tony Martin back. Dio's my favorite Sabbath, don't get me wrong. But I just thought it was going in a weird musical direction, and I wanted to see what they were going to do with this guy. So they bring him back. We get to Cross Purposes. I put the record on. Eyewitness comes on. I fucking love it immediately. I love this song. I really, really enjoy this record. This is one of those records that it seemed like they were just kind of writing songs however they come out, and they kind of just went with any vibe on this record. You've got your heavy stuff like Virtual Death, which is the classic, he's pulling off the bends and all this shit. And you've got some stuff that's like continuing with the Dehumanizer, like Psychophobia kind of stuff. Then you've got the melodic, when they can get into this stuff where Tony Martin gets to show off his voice alongside Tony Iommi, finding those melodies, that perfect mix of heavy Iommi with melodic him, which Eyewitness as a lead off is great at that. Immaculate Deception, it starts off but it gets going so good when they get that build up and it just starts jamming. And I'm just seeing a band that's trying to get back on time with Tony Martin. This record is not perfect. It is far from perfect. I do like it. I mean, I know that there's some stuff. I think Eddie Van Halen was involved with. Was it Evil Eye? What is the deal with that fucking Evil Eye thing? I never understood those things with those bonus players and stuff. Like who played like Brian May on Nightwing. We didn't even, I don't know all that, to be honest with you, exactly what the things is, because I've read different things. I've, put my ear to the ground for it, but I don't know. But like Dying for Love, it's a ballad again. It's your Feels Good to Me of this record. They just kind of were doing, all right, here's the love song, here's the heavy Sabbath one, here's the melodic one, maybe this commercial one.
Into their formula.
Yeah, they were just doing a little. What is there? 2, 4, 6, 8. There's 10 tunes on this record. Probably 3 songs of a couple and then 2 of the other style. I like this record. When it came out, for some reason, they did have a little bit of a vibe left from the Dio-era, because when they toured for this, it was Morbid Angel and Motorhead with them. They did tour. I was front row for this one. This was at Maryland University, so it was a general admission. I was front row. Tony Iommi handed me a guitar pick during the show. I fucking had it in my leather pouch for years. Don't know what happened to it. Breaks my heart. Don't want to talk about it. I'll have to go into tears, and that'll suck. But album cover, I think the Scorpions used the same artwork later on. If I'm remembering right, this doesn't do much for me as a thing. Production, Leaf Masses, decent. It's not bad, but I like this one more when it came out than I do now. I didn't play this one this week to go back to it. I still know it in my head. There's some really good parts. Immaculate Deception. When Tony Martin's singing, it's just cool.
Yeah. It
just is. The Hand That Rocks the Cradle, he does go for that song inside of that. Cross the Thorns, again, it's a Children of the Sea-ish kind of thing a little bit. I don't know where to go with this. I'm stumbling over my words for this one because I think they were kind of stumbling over how they wanted to approach this record. I'm going to give this one a C, because what I do like, Tony Martin's voice makes this record, and I hate to say that because I know he's my favorite guitarist, but Tony Martin is the star of the show on this record for me.
Yeah.
He is. Rondinelli does a good job filling in. He's not Cozy Pal. He does a nice job. Who was this? Neil Murray on bass again? I can't remember.
No, this is Geezer.
Oh, Geezer's on this one. That's right.
Yeah, it's the one. It's the one Tony Martin album with Geezer.
That's right. See, you get me now. You're going to Black Sabbath Jeopardy. I get kicked off at Jeopardy, and I wouldn't know Geezer's on this because that's how disorientated I am with this one. It's an odd record. I mean, I had a lot of good times with this record. We did a lot of partying, drinking, and going to parties with this record. We used to have this record on one side, and the other side we had Left Hand Path and Tomb. What a freak out that was on tape back and forth. It was just a 90-minute flip and flop, but I like it. I don't know what else to say about it. I just think Tony Martin is the star of the show. The songs nothing on this is legendary. October 31 actually took a crack at Eyewitness. They learned the song. We put the music down. I never sang it. Can't sing it. I would just try to sing it for fun. That's probably my favorite song to lead off. It's all good. Nothing's spectacular. Again, I'll run it into the ground like they did on the sludge beats on the album before it. Tony Martin is the star of the show on that one.
Yep.
And that's hard to say when you've got Geezer Butler and Tony Iommi on a Black Sabbath record.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, this one, I'm right there with you giving this one a C. I'll start at the end and back up. But for me, this album, like you said, 10 songs. I think there are 5 songs that are pretty good and 5 songs that are pretty, whatever. So it's right. It's the definition of a C. I like exactly half of it. They did still have, some hype. There was still some, a word on the street when this was coming out, but I think it did throw folks for a loop that, all of a sudden Dio was out and he wasn't coming back. And who the hell is this guy singing? I'd heard a couple of songs on it before the album came out. Labels used to do those little monthly sampler things where you get, a couple of tracks from, all the, heavy albums that were going to come out next month to play in the record stores. And the guy at the local store would always give me copies of them. So I'd heard 1 or 2 of the songs and, I knew Dio was out of the band. I didn't, expect him to end up, right, kind of back where they went. Again, it's very strange that they call Martin back up, put him back in the band. And like you said, they're sort of trying to pick back up where they had been with Tear and Headless Cross, but there's something awkward about it here. It's not they haven't quite put it back together the right way. Maybe some of it again is Cozy Powell's not involved. It is the one time, like we just mentioned, that Geezer's in the band with Tony Martin, so it's certainly not a bad album. There are some good tracks on it. I like Cardinal Sin is a cool one towards the end.
Yeah.
Hand That Rocks the Cradle is a good one. So, but there are a lot of other songs that just kind of, trying to read the little print, Psychophobia. I don't even know what that song sounds like. I couldn't hum a single note of it today. So it's an okay album. I think you're right. Tony Martin's vocals are, the thing that you want to hear here more than anything else, but it's not the best Tony Martin album. It's not the second best Tony Martin album. It's a Tony Martin Black Sabbath album. And
I agree.
It's a C. I don't dislike it. I'm not going to slag it, but there's nothing I can really say that is going to elevate it either. It came out. It did its thing. It didn't. The hype died down pretty fast after this came out. It didn't necessarily go over well, and so moving forward, it was kind of like Sabbath got that one. They got back in the spotlight there for just a little bit with Dio, but when he left, they kind of quickly got right back, faded back into obscurity a little bit. Sad to say. Marty, what do you think on Cross Purposes?
Cross Purposes this week is the first time I've ever heard that record. I listened to it once, and I'm like, this is good. I like it. I thought it was solid. Is it as good as Eternal Idol? No, I think it sits below Eternal Idol. So far, I think we got Headless Cross is number 1, Tear is number 2, Eternal Idol 3, and now Cross Purposes. I think Tony Martin sounds great on it. I like his voice. It's solid. There's some good riffs. There's some good songs. I mean, that's basically my takeaway after one listen. I really have nothing more to report. I have way more to report on Forbidden coming up.
Fair enough.
Which is also the first time I heard that album. It was this week, and it really. Anyway, go ahead.
All right. So, well, that's coming up next.
There's suspense of what's coming next.
Yep. So, King, take us into Forbidden territory.
Yeah, Marty, what is this one called again?
Forbidden.
This is forbidden for Marty to listen to, obviously.
No.
I'll tell you what's fucking forbidden, to put fucking Ice-T on this fucking record. He's a pathetic pile of shit in my eyes. Fucking putting a rap part on fucking Black Sabbath. Fuck that. I hate fucking rap. I want that to be known. That's not my thing, and it should stay off of Black Sabbath records. And Tony Iommi's going on record to say it was one of the dumbest fucking things he ever did. He has no idea why he did it, except at the time he was trying to fit in with everything in the world going on. That's as simple as that. The album covers
cool.
It looks like a Spencer's Gift, like Heavy Metal Never Die poster to me. Heavy Metal will never die. You know, this back thing with this collage, including everybody else outside of the band, is not my thing either. This record, I revisited this week. I always knew it. I actually like it more this week than I've ever liked it. I actually also, before I go on, I've heard a raw. I don't even think it's on YouTube anymore. There was a rough mix of this record with a different mix than what's on this CD, which was so much better than what's on here. This mix by, what's his name? Ernie
C from Body Count. Yeah.
It's awful. It's an awful mix. Yeah. It's fucking awful. I see Cozy Powell came back, and you got Neil Murray's back on this one, right? Yeah. See, I'm trying to make sure that's Neil Murray. I'm looking at Montgomery.
Yeah, Neil Murray. Yeah.
Yep.
I thought it was Bewitched for a minute there.
Yep. So you're back to like the tier lineup here.
Yes, and this is not tier, but
no.
This being said, I really Shaking Off the Chains. I love the riffing in that tune. The Illusion of Power, one of the worst opening Black Sabbath songs on any record. For a band that's legendary for getting a great opener, that sucks. That song sucks. Yeah. Rap or not, it's not a good song. And when Tony Martin tries to find spaces in there, he just starts talking. There's Illusion of Power and blah blah blah. I'm like, what the fuck is? They're just fucking lost. Get a Grip isn't bad. It's a bluesy little jam. Can't Get Close Enough isn't bad either. The one thing I do like about this album the most is his lead playing. Reminds me a lot of Technical Ecstasy lead playing. He went back to his old late 70s style of lead playing on this record. Shaking Off the Chains, far and away, is my favorite song on here. I Won't Cry For You has got a great vocal line. The song feels good to me, or any of those other kind of lovey-dovey things. Guilty as Hell. I don't really like the riff in it. Is guilty as hell. It doesn't go much for me. Sick and Tired. Again, the riff doesn't do a lot, and this is showing me that Iommi's his head is not here for this record. Rusty Angel's Never Gonna Die, whatever the hell he says there. It's like, and I don't want to sit here while we're doing the one time whenever we're going to do all the albums and like not even sing the lyrics right, but that's what it's come to with these last couple Cross Purposes and this. It's like they're just throwing it in a stew and spinning it around. Some of it's working because there's legendary guys here, especially Tony Iommi and Tony Martin's voice. Forbidden's a pretty good song, and Kiss of Death is fantastic for a closer. Kiss of Death and Shaking Off the Chains are the two I like from this one. When I first got this, I was disgusted in it. Like I said, I cannot stand fucking rap. When I heard that, I wanted to just go up and rip Tony Iommi's mustache off and throw it to the moon. They did not tour. They did not tour for this. This record came and went like Jesse Camp's career, and it's not that good. I like him. Like I said, I like him more this week than I've ever liked it before. It's a D plus. It's a D plus for me. This is I don't know. This is one of the worst Black Sabbath records they've ever done. This is probably my least favorite they ever done, but I'm going to leave it at that for the moment. If you can tell me, it's almost angered me when they do the rap thing. I just don't. What the fuck? There's no need. Whether if you like it or not, that's fine. Anybody listening or writing in or whatever, that's cool. That's your thing. This is Black Sabbath. It does not work. It was a poor idea. The whole situation.
Mm-hmm.
The album's, it's a D.
Yeah. Once again, I'm kind of on the same page with you with this one. If you can get past the crap going on, there is some good music on this album. It's not a total write-off. There's some cool things here and there, but man, you got to work for it on this one. Yeah, and like you said, Tony has very little to say, period, about this album, and none of it's good. He's just like, this did not work. This was bullshit. The version I've heard is that it was very much, the label that really pushed this idea of, we got to bring in, some, we got to make a splash with the producer and get you guys back on the map. Because again, the shine had really faded back off pretty quickly during Cross Purposes, because there was a live album that came out in between. Cross Purposes Live.
Cross Purposes Live, the box set.
Yeah, and that got Tony is on record as saying, I didn't even know the damn thing had come out. It got so little promotion. He has like no memory of that thing even being released, not because of the coke, just because he's like, the label did nothing about it. And I had forgotten that thing had even gotten released. It's like, oh yeah, they did do a Cross Purposes Live.
I gotta interrupt you, man. I'm not trying to be rude. I gotta interrupt you.
No, go ahead.
This turns to a fucking F just now. I just thought about something I've never thought about. This is the fucking same band that did fucking Headless Cross.
Hmm?
It's the same fucking. I've never looked at it that way till right now. When you just said that, I'm like, this is the same fucking line. I was like, from that amazing record to this pile of shit. And it's how bad it is for me right now. I'm looking at it going, holy shit. I gotta take it down to a nap just because that lackluster attempt at a fucking great record. Licking the ass of the fucking the label to fit in and stuff. I mean, this took 8 seconds to come up with. This might be a Spencer's Gift poster. Heavy metal will never die. $6.
Yep. Yeah.
But I'm sorry. That just bends me up. This is how weak that is.
That's fair.
I do like the two songs. I do like the two songs though.
Yep. But yeah, it's just if that story is true, it really just demonstrates it. It's the classic case of label executives, keep your fucking nose out of the studio. You don't know who the hell. I mean, somebody sitting around in a necktie getting paid a lot of money came up with this cockamamie idea to have Ernie C produce a Black Sabbath album. It's not even like Body Count were some kind of like international superstars that had a string of million selling record hits or anything. At that point, they might have done their second album by that point, but they were an Ice-T side project for Lollapalooza. The first Body Count album is kind of fun for what it is, which is just kind of brain dead fun. But how does that translate into giving you enough street cred to be a producer for Black Sabbath? And the idea that somebody was sitting around thinking, we need to make a splash. We gotta have a producer come in and really, give these guys a shot in the arm and get them back on the front page. Who should we get for that? Ernie C is who they came up with.
That's horrible.
Who the fuck comes up with that? And then, it just doesn't make
Alan's getting mean again, Marty.
He is. Take his Red Bull away.
I'm out of Red Bull and I'm crashing here. It's getting rough.
Yeah.
It makes no sense. And you're right, King.
You got Bull Rage.
Every album we've said, the opening track, it just kills it. And on this one, the balance of power, even if you took Ice-T off that song, that song sucks shit before Ice-T, before we even get to his lines.
I agree.
It's awful. And Tony Martin doing this spoken word crap? What the hell? You are so much better than that, man. But
Headless Cross lineup.
Tier lineup, Headless Cross lineup, and what the fuck are you doing? You've got the fucking artwork that looks like some kind of airbrush shit, a 13-year-old would put on their Trapper Keeper going on.
Put that on the side of a van.
Everything's wrong. Everything's just going wrong here. And it doesn't make any sense. It shouldn't have been going this wrong. There was no reason for it to. It reeks of panic by the record label that cross purposes didn't live up to the Dehumanizer hype. Emergency, we gotta fix everything. You don't need to fix everything.
That's what happened. They said emergency, and they thought they said Ernie C. Ernie C. He said emergency, not Ernie C. Ernie C. He said, get Ernie C in here. Yeah.
Mystery solved. We have cleared up one of the great enduring questions of heavy metal history. We stumbled into it.
That's funny.
But yeah, there is some decent music here and there in the album. Like you, I think my initial reaction is to go in that like D plus kind of range where it's bad. It's not something I want to waste a lot of time listening to, but there are some ideas in there. There were some things that were worthwhile. But yeah, off the top of my head, got to be the worst Black Sabbath album, at least to this point. And for me, it comes down to this. Why would I ever, I want to sit down and listen to an album. The kid's in bed. The papers are graded. The wife's watching her horrible cooking show that I can't stand with some nasty chef yelling curse words at people, and it's totally staged. And I'm going to sit down and play an album tonight, and I'm in the mood for some Black Sabbath. Why the fuck would I ever pick this over any other album that has Tony Martin on it, let alone anything else in their catalog? I just don't know why I would ever want to. I played it a couple of times again this week to refresh, and yeah, there's a few things on here. I am never going to pull this off the shelf.
I'm not going to buy it.
Over Headless Cross or over any of the other albums. It's just not a good album at the end of the day. And it's one of the first. Is it the first time we've said that it's not a good Black Sabbath album?
Yeah.
So, and Marty, it sounds like you're not. Have you got it in your Discogs cart ready to order, Marty?
No. This is. I listened to this twice this week. I couldn't put my finger on what was different, so I listened to it. I listened to it closely, and I think Sabbath. We mentioned earlier, Sabbath was very much. They're in their own bubble. Doesn't matter what was going on in the world. Sabbath was Sabbath. There'd be maybe little influences here that creep in, but with this album, this was the first time I've heard the door crack open on that bubble. And what was to come in? What was 1995 this album came out. What's going on in 1995? Grunge. And
yep,
it's very subtle, but man, I'm listening. I'm hearing some drop D tuning here and there. I think I hear some drop tuning that, Sabbath didn't really do that. And Tony Martin's vocals, his high register is obviously kind of roached. He sounds kind of bad. He's doing more speaking pieces. I'm hearing like they were influenced not by Alice in Chains, but maybe Alice in Chains' retarded brother. I don't know. But there is that influence there, and it's very subtle, but it's there. And it just really puts this album in a weird headspace. It sounds like they're trying to do a half-ass stab at bending with the times to sell more records.
That's a good that's a good observation, Marty. That's definitely, you're right. Tony Martin is definitely he's stretched thin on this one. His voice is definitely not up to par for sure on this record.
I think it was that what song was it? It was like 3 and 4. It was real evident. Shaking Off the I know you said you like Shaking Off the Chains, or was it the Rusty Angel? I don't know.
Yeah, Rusty Angel just doesn't work.
No, it's like that influence is there. Once I finally put my finger on it, I'm like, aha, well, this is the first time they've ever really fucking succumbed to that, wanting to maybe dip their fingers into something that's popular. Alice in Chains. I actually like some Alice in Chains stuff. I can see how that was an influence on other bands, but all of a sudden Black Sabbath comes out of nowhere, never really having done that. And this is where they land. It was no Carnival of Souls, but it was very much, it tainted the record. There might have been some cool riffs, a cool solo here and there. The rap thing, whatever. It's so stupid why they did it. I don't know. It makes no sense. the album for me is a swing and a miss. I'll never listen to it again. Definite F. Straight up. There's some, it's not worth listening to again. I don't care how good a couple riffs are. Tony Martin sounds roached, and it's obvious his vocal style is changing to a more spoken, grungy style. I don't know. Nah, yuck. Pass.
Yep. And and it's kind of a sad end note, not just to the Tony Martin era, but this is the last Black Sabbath studio effort for a long time.
Yeah.
For a very long time.
Yeah.
Because this was 95, and we're going to have to jump about 14 years forward. Unless there's anything along the way, King, that you wanted to give a shout out to.
Now you got those songs on the Dio years, those three tunes there, which was just going to get us to where we are now. So
yeah, you've got a couple of songs on the Black Sabbath reunion live album that whatever.
Yeah, I don't even know what to say. Yeah, if you want to talk about those, we'll see when we finish this out. Are we gonna go to Heaven and Hell now?
Yeah, that's chronologically the number. Yeah.
Let's go here. I can say what I want to say about that at the same time. This record here, I just played all the way through loud today, and I hadn't played it in a while, and I know why I haven't played it in a while. It's not very good. It's just not very good. It's more of the same of the Dehumanizer thing, where they kind of get this fucking one speed and they stick there, and it just doesn't work. And I'm going to tell you right now, these are some of the dumbest lyrics I've ever heard.
They're rough.
That fucking eating the cannibals it's just not very good. Now, let me tell you this. It came on Adam and Evil. I don't mind. It's okay. It would have been a good third or fourth song. Not as a lead off. It's not very good. Fear didn't do much for me. Bible Black, I really like. This is a track I like. Double the Pain, I like too. And this is all fresh in my mind because this record needed to be refreshed because, like when we went to Cross Purposes, it's disorientated to me. Like, it's just not a favorite of mine. As it goes on, Bible Black, Double the Pain are the two I really like on this record. Okay. Rock and Roll Angel, Turn of the Screw. I'm just going to name the titles. couldn't even break them down right now. And I've only heard it 5-6 hours ago. It's just a I'm going to tell you something else that surprised me today. I listened to it on headphones really loud. Geezer Butler, I don't really like his performance on this. It's a little bit outside the box. To me, he doesn't really hold it down like usual. It's like he was doing something a little bit different. I could be wrong. Just by me listening through the headphones, I'm really digging in. Vinny Appice's fucking forgettable. He's just forgettable on this thing. There's nothing there. Iommi does some wicked fucking leads. I like the recordings and the tones of his leads on here. When they come jumping out in my ears, I'm enjoying it. But literally I could have lived with this as a fucking 7-inch record. I could have lived with fucking Bible Black and Double the Pain were the two, but they were back to back, even 3 and 4 that I really liked. There might be in a couple pieces I'm, shortchanging. I don't mean to. This was better than Forbidden, but it's like the Dehumanizer still had the hooks for the most part. There's not a lot of hooks here. They take that riff. Some of the songs, he's even taking the chorus and using the same melody as the verses to make the chorus. And then sometimes the lead might be just a note down or something, change in the things, and he'll play off it. It just seems like that Dio became as a solo artist, the later Dio stuff. Like, I put that on. I love his voice. I've always will, but it just is missing. It literally, Black, like I said earlier, and you got to compare them because it is what it is. Heaven and Hell, it's Bill Ward. Besides that, that's still 100. Mob Rules is 110 for me. Dehumanizer, 79. This is probably a 55 to me. I'll give it a 55 because of the leads and the two songs, but it just does not do a lot for me. It really doesn't. And the lyrics are so bad.
They're bad.
I just can't believe what he's singing. Dio sounds good. Vinny Appice does nothing for me. Geezer he's rocking the bass, but it just doesn't seem to work. I don't know if this is just a sign of the times again too, but it just does not have the Sabbath I'm looking for. It does not have those classic choruses, everything and stuff. And Dio's old, and I get it. He may have to come down to the slower tunes in general to get what he needs. Another thing I want to mention on this is I notice he does a lot of double tracking of his voice on this one. And I understand being his age and stuff like that. He's laying a lot on the pipes. There's people that couldn't have got 10 years younger than him and did this.
Yeah.
But I mean, what is that? It's a Wes Ben Scott artwork too. There's something in common with the C. So you got our Blueprints and our Fearless. That does nothing for me either. That's not a Black Sabbath album cover.
Nope.
That's a fucking that's a Century Media album cover by somebody else.
Yep.
It's just, it doesn't work for me. I saw the tour. I saw them twice. I was at the concert when they filmed it for the DVD at Radio Hall. They were fucking phenomenal. Dio was fucking brilliant live. Vinny Appice got yelled at by Geezer Butler 3 different times for fucking up a couple parts. He was definitely got the finger pointed at him during the show.
Wow.
So then I saw him again with Alice Cooper and Queensryche, and I thought Alice Cooper stole the show that night. That was the last time I ever saw him with Dio before he passed away. But as a farewell to Sabbath with this one, it could have been more. I respect the hell out of those guys that for their age and stuff, and Dio gave it his all, but it just doesn't have the magic of the first two, and it's a step down from the reunion of Dehumanizer too. Fuck, I guess I'm giving. I mean, out of respect, I'm gonna go C minus. I won't go D. I don't like. It probably is a D, but out of respect, I'm gonna go C minus for this finale for the Dio-era Black Sabbath, and it should have been called Black Sabbath. And fuck Sharon Osbourne.
Yeah, true. And Alan must have had a problem because he bounced out. So I'm gonna jump in.
Okay.
I listened to this today after not hearing it since it came out, and it is, like you said, Dehumanizer Part 2. It is the same speed, the same heaviness, a little bit better production. For me, Adam and Evil is a good song. Bible Black, good song. Had to stream. There he is. Hey, Alan.
Hey.
Double the Pain, decent song. But for me, the best song on this album is the ending song, Breaking into Heaven.
Okay.
That has the feeling of like a good, it's got that epic ending, sad. Dio's really vamping it up on the ending of it. Do some higher register stuff with his vocals. It's a really good emotive song that really stood out on this album for me.
Okay. I'm gonna go back and listen to that one when we hang up tonight. I'm gonna go back and listen to that one for the finale for the night for me. Because I'll be honest with you, as the record went on the second time through today, I was starting to drift because I just played it and I was like, oh man, I couldn't go through it twice.
Is it lonely is the word? Is it over and over? No, but it's the same spirit. It's got that long, slow, drawn out, really emotive chorus to it. It's a good song. Probably the best song for me on this album. And, Dio at this point is sounding old. I mean, he is old. I mean, he's been doing this since forever. And the fact that he still sounds amazing on this album, hats off to him. I mean, it just totally shows that he knew what he could do with his vocals, and he didn't abuse it over the years. He kept it safe. He did a good job with it. And, right up to the end, this motherfucker could sing. He could sing his ass off. And he was an anomaly, and he was a pure talent. And I love it. I love Dio. I can't say that I really loved his solo career as it went on. Again, it's a lot of samey songs over and over and over again, but a good singer's a good singer, man. I
always thought he needed Iommi or he needed Blackmore, and as much as they needed him to put it all together. Yep. I love Holy Diver, and Last in Line is good.
Yep.
It's not Holy Diver good, and then it just started to slip a little bit. The 80s records weren't bad, but as he went on into, like we were saying, Magica and all these later ones, I don't even know all the names of the albums. That one album he did, Strange Highways, which was totally like that down tune shit with that one crazy guitar player. That I actually liked some of that for what it was at the time. Something about Jesus and the Mary and the Holy Ghost or something. Mm-hmm. What was that guy's name? The Tracy G, the guitar player on that one?
Yeah, Tracy G. Yeah.
Loudest concert I ever went to was Strange Highway. Saw it at Jack's, which was a club. They brought in an arena PA. It was so loud that for 3 days I couldn't even get my balance back. And the guy that went with me, Dennis, the guy that was in Doomstone, he had to quit his job 6 days. He was throwing up for 6 days after that concert because we stood right in front of the PA speaker the whole show, and we were like looking to the side because he was right here on the middle stage. Loudest concert ever, and he was phenomenal live. Don't get me wrong; he was playing the 800 seat clubs at this point with these fucking 20,000 fucking seat arena PA speakers that night.
Make them tougher.
But I agree with you on the later records. It's just plotting and stuff. And I tried to like him and stuff, but I just would listen. I go, man, that guy's got a voice. I just wish he was singing something better with it. That's all.
Yep. His vocal, like you said, the lyrics really got kind of dumb, and they're Bible Black's got some good stuff on it. I mean, there's some good lyrics here and there, but it's largely not very good.
Right.
Yep.
So what do you think, Alan?
I think this is all the bad parts of Dehumanizer without any of the good parts. Like y'all have said, it's a very slow, plotty, heavy album, but this time it doesn't have the standout tracks, to bolster it back up at all. The tracks sound very samey to me. They plot along very bad. It's not an interesting album. It's just not. I remember when this came out, there was a lot of hype around it because once again, you've got the Dehumanizer, aka the Mob Rules, line up back together. It got all kinds of album of the month, top 5 album of the year kind of things, and I didn't hear it. I listened to it. I tried to like it. I'm just like, I don't get why everybody's so into this. It doesn't sound good. Something that had happened in that interim, again, there was a 14-year window that we went through, and when we left, at the end of Forbidden, again, Sabbath had kind of crashed and burned, back into obscurity. But then in that ensuing 14 years, Sabbath became one of these legacy bands. They got voted into the pantheon of everything, with, playing the, Ozfests and all that kind of stuff, and, everybody getting to see them again. And they became the band. That was that time frame is when to the masses, that the legend got cemented in place. And so I think when this came out, people were going to love it no matter what they did. And there was probably at least some pressure in terms like, well, give the people what they want, which is make it sound as heavy as we can, I guess. And people ate it up. But no, I agree with y'all. It's not a good album. It's just not. There's nothing there. Like you said, King, there's no hooks. There's nothing.
That's something I'm looking at the last couple of records come Cross Purposes up. And it was a thing with most music in the world, even outside of Sabbath and even rock and roll or metal. People forgot how to write choruses, hooks, melodies in general. Yeah. I mean, these records, these songs, and it's very minuscule amounts of stuff. I could probably make one good album between these three here at the end. And I think that's the thing with that. And I think we'd all agree this, and we have talked about this earlier, but going with this one right here, I think them, and we know he's passed away. These guys and a band called Iron Maiden are missing a man named Martin Birch more than people ever want to know.
Fully agree.
I think this would have been a lot different with Martin Birch at the helm instead of produced by Dio, Iommi, and Geisler. Sure, they know what they want, but they can know what they want and they can know what they need to have, which is what Martin Birch, again, like we talked about earlier, knock that cocaine out your hand. Let's get it done. I think those bands are missing that. And as they go on, they're the experts now. They know their music better than anybody. But if the songs aren't there, and all three of us, at least on this panel tonight, agree the songs are not there for this one for the most part. No. It's missing something. I mean, again, it doesn't even look like a Black Sabbath. I know it's Heaven and Hell, but it doesn't even look like a Black Sabbath artwork. No. It's like, here, man, throw this in, Slayer, throw this in with Megadeth, just throw it in that pile.
Yeah, I don't like that cover. You're right. It's very un-Sabbath.
It's terrible. It's terrible. I could just see, Antichrist 666 or something. Just something.
Yeah, it looks like
I look at it and I read 2 words: Century Media.
It looks like a rejected Dark Funeral album cover.
Exactly. Or Destroyer 666, or somebody like that would have that on their cover. It doesn't fit. It's just not right. But by this point, it's amazing that they go from the Disaster of Forbidden and 14 years off. And in that window, all of a sudden, they go from a band that everybody had written off to a band that could do no wrong. That all of us, they're everybody's most favoritist band ever and the biggest influence on everything ever. And that's fair. They had earned that, sure. But it's just weird how they recorded nothing for over a decade. And the perception of that band changed so dramatically.
Well, you look at the lineup, and it's all collections and weird. I mean, he basically Iommi was sailing on the legacy, the brand. He was sailing on the brand.
They're an Ozfest band at that point.
Yeah. Let's also put it this way too: the internet changed the world in many ways, and that's another way this just turned into something totally different. Black Sabbath became an institution instead of like I used to say this about Merciful Fate. It used to be an event when a Merciful Fate record came out, when they came back and they started throwing records out every 15 months, and you're just like, another Merciful Fate, and you're like, I'm not having a party at my house for this one, and you just start realizing it's not the same. That's what it became. It's like, okay, guys, you got 11 buying graph charts is what I'm getting at. Let's get this out. Let's get you on tour. We're going to have this and that and that and this, and the music becomes the last thing. I mean, I can't believe anybody in Sabbath okayed this cover again.
Yeah.
They just did. I don't know what they were doing. I mean, maybe they were 110% into that and they believe in it, and more power to them. I've got friends that love this. I've got people that are like, man, I love that Heaven and Hell record. More power to you. To each their own for anything we've talked about tonight. But if I'm speaking with my name below me and Marty's speaking with his below him and you're speaking with yours below you, Alan, that's how we all feel about everything we've talked about. And for me, it's just been a long while since Black Sabbath released anything really, really good. And that's not even talking about Psycho Man or Sell Your Soul and that crap in between, this stuff when they were just having a product out there to go out there and, Sharon Osbourne run her puppet through Ozzy, which obviously Tony Iommi and them took the bait easy, and they all fell into what we know will end up being our finale here in a second. Which I want to say right now, if we're going to talk about 13 to close it out, I've got nothing to say about it. It's a piece of shit. It's not allowed within 1 mile of my house. I can't stand it. It's a disgrace. It's an embarrassment for a guy that's been into Black Sabbath since I was 13, which is 40 years ago. This December 3rd will be 40 years I've been into Sabbath. This is my album cover for 13. I call it album 11. It's a piece of shit. I'm not even trying to be a jokester tonight. I was fucking disgraced when I heard that God is Dead and all those tunes. It was all like, by the numbers, play this song, sound like this, sound like that. Rick Rubin just made him a fucking joke. I accidentally saw the concert. What happened was I was going down to see a friend in Virginia. They said, "Oh, Black Sabbath is playing tonight on the classic radio station." I was stopped at a fucking traffic jam on the highway. Grabbed my phone. I dialed the number. I fucking won the tickets to this fucking concert. I've never won anything in my fucking life on the phone. And I was like telling the lady I was on the air, and I started talking, and she's like, "Do you even want to go to this concert?" I'm like, "Oh, the album's terrible." And she's like, "Let me pull you off the air," because I was saying, bad things about the record. And so, and she pulled me, she goes, "You even want to go?" And I said, "Yeah, I want to go." And the only reason I even went is because she's like, "There'll be tickets for you at the, when you get there." I was expecting maybe I could have got like first or second row, shook Tony Iommi's hand, met the band, something like that. They gave me like 47th row. I stayed for all of 5 songs. I was embarrassed for him. It was a disgrace. I've written a big thing about this. That's when I realized that Black Sabbath, abbreviated, is BS. And that was it for me. That was it. 13 made me lose a lot of respect for Tony Iommi, Geezer Butler, Ozzy Osbourne I haven't cared about in years, and Bill Ward, poor man. They couldn't even just pay him some money to be out there. I'll never understand that. No Bill Ward, no King Fowley was what I said with the Black Sabbath. Yeah, he's sick. He's old. He's got to be the battery of the band. He can't keep up. Sure, they sure stopped at time for Ozzy Osbourne to miss shows. They sure stopped time for Tony Iommi to miss shows with his cancer. But, not to bring Bill along and then to cut him out of the pictures. I hate to do all this 2 weeks worth of stuff to finish with the Dukes out, but that's the truth. That's how I feel. 13 is a pile of shit, and it is not allowed within 1 mile of my house. Just like the old Morbid Angel won't let Deceased sell T-shirts within a mile of the club. That record's not allowed within 1 mile of my house. I never purchased it. I've heard it in full. It's a pile of shit. It's an embarrassment, and they should all be fucking just go hide in a corner for a decade because of that one. I don't know if I'll ever look at them in the same light. And you're talking to my favorite top 3 bands of all time, my favorite guitar player to ever exist, and the band that made me sell my fucking soul to heavy metal December 3rd, 1981. So that's my review of 13. I'll let you guys bring it home.
I want to back up for 1 second there. Something you said there made me remember one thing about the Heaven and Hell record that I wanted to throw out there. I remember reading that the way they wrote that album was very strange. The song, because you mentioned something that it was hard to believe that the guys in Sabbath liked those songs. the way they wrote those songs supposedly was that, every guy kind of went off, and did like their own little, CD full of, riffs and ideas and parts of songs. And they got together and they kind of like, they just like the CDR trade. And they're like, well, I like this part on, Ronnie's CD, and I like this part on Geezer's CD. So what if we kind of spliced those two into a song together? And the only song supposedly on that whole Heaven and Hell album that was actually like an entire unit that didn't get stitched together in that Frankenstein-like sense again was Adam and Evil. That was one of Ronnie's songs, and everybody liked it enough. They're just like, yeah, we don't need to tinker with that one. But all the others, it's just like, well, let's take, Tony's, 14th, riff on his disc and try combining it with this chorus, from Ronnie and this riff from Geezer. And that had to be a strange freaking way to make an album. So
that does not sound fun or interesting at all to me. It sounds like guys that like, I mean, it almost seems like, we don't even have time to make a record. We got to get out on the road. Let's just throw this fucking thing together.
Yeah.
And the recording of that album was very disruptive because they would work on it for a little while and then, oh, well, it's 2008, time to go do another Ozfest. Like you said, the institution of Black Sabbath and stuff like that was very much in the way. So I wanted to mention that with the Heaven and Hell discussion.
I had to make sure I got my 13 out there before I ran out of smoke.
That's okay. That's okay. Yeah. In terms of 13 for me, it came out. Obviously, I was going to listen to it like everybody else on the planet. I played it a couple of times and was like, well, I didn't have the same visceral hatred of it that you did, but no song stood out. No riff stood out. Nothing really stood out about it at all. I played it a few times and figured, okay, I've played it. I just don't want to play it anymore. Again, I've got thousands of albums, sitting here that I enjoy, and I just don't want to sit through this anymore. And until this week, I hadn't taken it back out and played it a single time. The re-listening to it this week, the two things that stand out to me about it is so many of these songs on 13 are really just retreads of old Black Sabbath songs.
That's Rick Rubin.
Yeah, there's one song that's just a retread of NIB, and there's one that's a retread of Black Sabbath.
The Wizard.
There's one that's a retread of the Wizard. Yeah, and it's just you went back and tried to make the same thing you guys did way back in the day, but you just, in a way, you made it too close to the mark because it's way too obvious where these songs are coming from. And of course, naturally, they're all much, much worse. There's no way they're going to be better. So it feels really weird. I've got one nice thing to say about the album. I was pleasantly surprised, that Ozzy sounded okay on it. I really didn't expect going in that Ozzy was going to be able to. I thought he would just sound like total crap.
He didn't.
Like yourself, King. I don't care. I couldn't really care less about Ozzy over the years. Not a big fan of most of his solo stuff at all, but he did put in a decent performance. And I'm sure they probably had to work with him a lot to get him to sound that good. But
makes you wonder how much computer shit is on his voice.
Probably is. But he does. The vocal performance does sound okay. He didn't sound. I was really set up to think it was just going to say he was going to be the weak link, that everything else might be okay, and Ozzy was going to be the one that couldn't deliver. And I feel like, no, okay, he turned in an okay performance on it. But yeah, I will probably never play the album again. Why would I ever pick that over any of the first 8 albums that they did with them? There's nothing new or interesting here. Like you said, King, it's Black Sabbath, the institution. It's now a way to sell 1 million T-shirts with the little winged devil icon, and every other person you see on spring break, is flashing the same little devil tattoo, and got the same Masters of Reality logo T-shirt that they bought down at Hot Topic. It's a vehicle. It's a merchandise vehicle now, and it's sad that it came to that.
It's a Sharon Osbourne sex toy. He fucking gets off on just ruining everything she touches. And I'm disappointed in Tony Iommi and them for fucking taking the bait, man. Put $1 million in front of them. They danced her fucking dance. That's pathetic. They should have just fucking kicked her in the fucking tits and fucking kept on moving, man. I mean, there's nothing. There's nothing left. I mean, what is left? I mean, I walked out of fucking 1981. Black Sabbath was the fucking lords to me. I walked out of the fucking concert 5 songs in. I was like, I can't even be here. It's so bad. It's embarrassingly bad on the stage. The drummer that's on drums for them, going for the Bill Ward look too. I mean, they dressed him like Bill Ward. If Bill Ward didn't make it, whatever reason they want to talk about, that's up to them. That's their personal lives. Then they cut him out of every picture on the Black Sabbath website. I mean, that's disgusting, dude. Yeah, and to say he's our mate, we've been friends since we were young. We lit him on fire. We love Bill. Blah blah blah. He just couldn't hang with us. Well, they sure waited for Tony Iommi. They sure waited for Ozzy Osbourne. You know what I'm saying? But whatever. It's a Sharon Osbourne fuck toy is what it is. He's ruined it, man. She's a disgrace to fucking anything to do with music.
So now, Marty, you said you really love this album, so I'm interested to hear your take.
You know what? I don't love this album, but I did enjoy this album. And it wasn't for the right reasons. It was basically, this album to me is Sabbath playing it completely safe. They listened to a producer. They had a long line of I think, let's be honest, I think if Dio didn't die, I think Sabbath or Iommi would have continued on with Dio. That's the only impression I got. But he did pass. So what are you going to do? You got to do something. So they talked to this producer who claims to love Sabbath, and he, you want to know why you're not writing successful albums anymore? Because you're not modeling everything after your successful years. You're getting Ozzy back. They basically modeled this album after their first 2 albums. I mean, there's even the thunderstorm at the beginning and the ending of it. Ruben looked at the blueprint for Black Sabbath and mapped it out. You got the fucking harmonica for the wizard on here. You got the slow, end of the beginning is very slow, like Black Sabbath starts off the fucking debut album. I fell into the nostalgia of this. And Alan is right. Ozzy, I was expecting Ozzy to sound like dog shit on this, and he sounds pretty together and okay on this record. He sounds like Ozzy. It had that, like I said, you that old pair of pants, you're maybe a little too fat and you're in between sizes. You put on that old pair of pants that's stretched out just right and it fits. It seems like these guys got in a room together, and what they wrote sounds like Sabbath. Yes, it sounds like kind of a dumbed down Sabbath. I mean, the songs weren't amazing, but they were catchy enough to, there was a good week or 2 after I bought this that I listened to it every day, a couple times. The songs, they didn't blow me away, but I thought they were okay. And it was like a nostalgia trip. Like, oh, Ozzy's back in Sabbath, and it's not bad. It's pretty okay, but I haven't touched it since. It's kind of like Book of Souls for me. I liked it a lot when it came out, but then I just didn't stick with it. Like Alan said, there's nothing here that's going to tear me away from, Sabbath Bloody Sabbath or Sabotage. Just not going to happen. But I get it. It got him on tour where Ozzy sounded like dog shit. I saw a lot of live stuff on YouTube, and he's out of key, struggling hard. And, I don't know. Did he sound okay when you saw him, King, or did you? Was he on key or was he struggling?
Yeah, he was somewhere in between. I mean, the guitars were so loud they were kind of just killing his voice on purpose. I think
that's probably why they did.
I saw him. It was War Pigs. It was surprisingly, it was Under the Sun when I saw him. It was one of the tunes from this, and Snowblind. And I think the 5th song I can't remember, it was Snowblind, Under the Sun, War Pigs, and it was one. It may have been Dirty Women was the next song, and I left. I just could not stay. I was like, it just seemed like I was watching Ozzy Osbourne solo career, and Tony Iommi looked bored to be there. Geezer Butler didn't even seem interested, and that fucking drummer was just upsetting me because I was like, why would they dress this motherfucker up like Bill Ward? It's like, God damn, it's so bad. I mean, that's just so fucking respectful, dude. It's just so disrespectful to me. And I know, and after it's said and done, Bill Ward is the one man still standing, man, for me, with all my respect. Like I said, Iommi's my favorite guitar player. I love some Black Sabbath. We've just gone through everything over the last 6 hours in a 2-week span, and I love them, man. But fucking, I am just fucking disgusted in those three. Ozzy, I haven't had a care for in years, and I don't think Ozzy's. And I just watched the thing with Max Norman too, that did the Ozzy early albums. I don't think Ozzy's as fucking bent up, fucked up, and burnt out as people think. I think he kind of knows what he's doing for the most part, and he's just taking it for what it is. And it's an easy way to get out of having to say take fucking blame for something, because it's like he just plays dumb. That's what it comes down to. But I can see for a fact all three of them went into the Black Sabbath's website and deleted Bill Ward's shit and all that, and that sucks.
It does suck. It does suck. If Bill, I think that the Last Supper videotape I have of them, Bill was struggling. It looked like he was struggling to me. He sounded okay, but
I'm sure he was, and I'm sure he was. But it's just what they did to him.
Yeah, they did it. They should have just come out and say, "Look, man, Bill Ward's not a healthy guy. He's not going to be able to handle a 3-hour show." But
you just said yourself that Ozzy Osbourne was fucking horrific when you saw him. Yeah, so what does that make it better for him? Ozzy was still up there. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. I mean,
do a short set with Bill Ward. Say he's fucking 70 fucking some years old. Here we'll do 2 or 3 with him, and that's all the wind he's got left in his fucking lungs. And then bring out a guy that can be himself and not dress up like Bill Ward for Halloween.
Yep.
And do it.
That's what they should have done.
I got nothing good to say about this. I see there's a message on here from Wade saying if it came earlier, this record would have been terrible to me no matter when it came out. It's not about the timing of it or even the Bill Ward thing. I just think it's a piece of shit as a record, my opinion. Talking to you, Wade, Conrad, brother. That's just my opinion. It just wouldn't have worked for me. Dehumanizer doesn't really work for me to begin with. And I've never been a No More Tears guy for Ozzy either. I mean, that's just what I'm seeing on the screen. I see a thing there, Marty. I don't know if you see it up there. But that's my opinion as far as that goes. It just wouldn't have worked on any level. It doesn't really sound like Black Sabbath to me, except like a Black Sabbath clone. Like you said, here's this song, here's that song, here's this. I'd rather hear Never Say Die where they just jam and make it up instead of just fucking following a format.
That's what they should have done. They shouldn't have went in with Rick Rubin. They should have went and got, I don't know, anybody else and actually got in a room together and jammed.
But I mean, that's what got him all the money. I mean, Sharon Osbourne got him so much money. I mean, he gave up the Black Sabbath name to heaven and hell for her. I mean, he sold out. I mean, he sold out for the money.
Yep. Crazy. Well, guys, we did it.
There we are.
Oops, we did it again. King, it's been a pleasure hanging out with you. Alan, of course, as always, great.
I'm still here. My phone's probably going to go. Here I am. Hi. I still got about 10 more minutes on my phone. I didn't know if my phone would make it the whole way, but it did.
Right on.
Dude, this has been great. I mean, hey, it's all passion. And I want to say to anybody that's listened to any of this last week, this week, or both weeks, love what you love. Nobody hears. I'm not knocking nobody. If you love the rap part on Forbidden or you think 13 is the best Black Sabbath album, my opinion, be yourself. That's why we all get names, to be ourselves, man.
Yep.
And I love it. It's all been a hell of a ride. I'm always going to love what I love. And if you don't like something as much as somebody else, then say so. And if it really upsets you like the 13 moment in time did me, say so. We saw Alan break a little mean there tonight too, a little bit, which I've been seen too often. And my knowing of the man, he had some Red Bull rage come out. Red Rage was out.
That's going to be his new
Red
TV
Bull gives
show.
you anger.
Breaking Mean.
That motherfucker's like, why would I fucking play this fucking piece of shit? Thought you were going as me for
answer.
Well,
King, thanks so much for joining us on these. It's been great. Great.
Oh yeah, both you guys you're fantastic. You're well versed. You're professional as hell. Everything about this has been great. Anybody listening or comments or anything the whole time, all the best to you. Happy fucking Halloween, everybody. And Mob Rules is the best Black Sabbath album in my world.
And King,
agreed.
We're gonna have to get you back. You're not getting
absolutely anytime.
Coming back again. So
anytime. If you want to do a Black Sabbath 13 smash up party, I'll bring the Louisville Slugger. No, seriously, anytime. Dude, we'll do this more often. I'm having a blast, dude. I miss talking about music. That's one thing about the world. People these days want to rate this and rate that, and this sucks, and just keep moving on because the world is so fast. I realize when we're sitting here going through these records, we actually took the time to play these records, and we grew up with these records, and that's where you can really adjust when it's something you know. Like I told you last week, Marty, I think Alan was in there too. You can go into certain topics, and I'm going to be stopped at the door. Like you said tonight, some of these Tony Martins, you're like, I don't have much to add to this, blah, blah, blah. But when it's something you really know, like for this one, why I chose Sabbath was because it's something, as you can see, it's 40 years. Yep. I mean, I'm 53. I'm 13 years is all I was short of Sabbath in 40 fucking years. And I know you guys know your music and stuff. So anytime, I love it, man. Right. And anytime I can see Alan go into fucking red rage, man.
Oh, no.
That may have been his phone.
There he is.
Nope. Still a little battery life left.
Well, King, stick with us. We're going to talk a second here. And everybody else, thank you so much for hanging out with us tonight. It's been a blast. We'll get King back again soon. And y'all have a good night.
Everybody take care. We'll see you again soon.
Hey, subscribe, damn it. All you looky-loos.
I'm still here for another second if you guys can hear me.
Yep. Okay, we're gonna jump. Yeah. We're gonna jump, King. Stick with us. Hang on.
Okay, yeah, it's up. Yeah, I wish I had my other cord down here. My phone's probably got like 2 minutes on it.
See y'all.